feels like a really long time since we were welcomed back into the European Le Mans Series paddock, because of course this championship takes a pause for the 24 hours of Le Mans. But 2 months ago we were racing in the south of France at Le Castellet, and round 3 brings us to a traditional meeting, I feel, here in Italy. Sometimes it's been Monza in the past, but we're now at Imola for what feels like also quite a late race 3 for the 2025 season. And we're going to throw some GT3 cars at the track very, very shortly. The interesting thing is that we might have a bit of weather in the area, which, considering we haven't seen a great deal of that over the last few days, it's just been hot, hot, hot. The GT3s might have the conditions to contend with as well. Anyway, we'll deal with that in just a second. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm delighted to be joined by Graham Goodwin, who's the editor of dailysportscar.com. We've got a third voice in our booth as well, who we will head to in just a second. But hello, Graham. Welcome back to the ELMS.
Yes, indeed. It's great to be back in the ELMS. We love these weekends. It's a quieter weekend than most. We are here now into the, we reached the midway point of the ELMS calendar here at Imola. Still got Spa, Silverstone, much looked forward to, and Portimão, of course, to complete. But you're absolutely right. We do have a special guest here for LMGT3 qualifying, and it's our guest that brought with us the weather forecast. So we're going to point at this stage to the lady sitting between us, Rahel Fry. Welcome to the TV booth from the Iron Dames, of course. We might get some rain here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a great pleasure. As we can see in the background, there approached some very, very dark clouds. It's going to spice up the action. The first cars are going out already because strategy is very clear, very simple. They are still on slicks. They want to go out as fast as possible to get a lap done on the slicks before this rain will approach.
And that's the problem, isn't it? It's a matter of getting that banker in. This is not the way we'd normally see the teams approach this session, is it?
No, usually you wait a little bit because the track evaluates. Usually it's always faster towards the end of a qualifying. Right now, you just have one target, to be the first car in this line. And when the light goes on green, you try to cross the start-finish line as fast as possible.
We've had 2 races already. Looking at the championship, Iron Dames right at the top there. I mean, it wasn't a great Le Castellet, but a win in Barcelona. You're not in the car anymore, obviously. Celia Martin is now the bronze. She's going to have to do this session. But talk us through, before we get started, how the feeling in the camp is heading into race 3 of the year.
The feeling is great. I mean, they are the championship leaders. It gave them a big boost for the championship. They feel confident. They love Imola, all 3 of them. We had quite strong pace in the WEC earlier on in the year. ELMS, the round we won last year here in Imola. So the girls, they love the track. We just have one extra challenge. As they are leading the championship, they are quite heavier than the rest because they have some success ballast. Yep. And this is something they can clearly feel in Imola. Nevertheless, we are Iron Dames and we are used to challenges, so they're ready.
We're waiting for the really green light at the end of pit lane. Just one quick word about what's been an extraordinary start to this season. Raul, you, the vanguard of this fantastic Iron Dames.
1 minute,
1 second.
under 1 minute to start LMGT3 qualifying session. We are under 1 minute to open pit exit.
We can see there the weather radar and people pointing to it now. So hang on a minute, where did that come from? Already, with you as part of this, with LMGTM race wins in the FIWC, the very final ever GT race won by the Iron Dames, and a win in LMGT3. We've had extraordinary success, not just from the Dames.
30 seconds, under 30 seconds to open pit exit.
But also overall race win from Jamie Chadwick, and also Lily Wadu with success. It must do your heart good to see this coming together.
Oh yes, absolutely. This is something what we all love to see. We all love to have...
Pit exit opens in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is now open. LMGT3 qualifying session has started.
So to continue the point, it has been an extraordinary part of this 2025 season. That we've seen such strength in depth and success in depth. There are, at the moment, still just 5 women on this grid, and all of them have won races.
It's amazing, isn't it? And this is exactly what we love to see, and I hope they will follow more girls. We are trying to set new benchmark, clearly, and to motivate new girls from go-karting, because in the end we need a wider base. That's why we also start supporting girls already in go-karting to hopefully end up in GT cars on high level like ELMS.
2025 has thrown some challenges at the Iron Dames, not least, of course, you had to restructure around Zara Bovy, now a silver-ranked driver, bringing in Celia, and she's done spectacularly well so far here in the European Le Mans Series, but further challenges with the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the huge shunt that came the way of Marta Garcia in the opening round, and then illness for Vanina. Coming back though in full strength, almost. We'll talk about Hopalong Gatting in a short while.
And Hopalong Karen, I saw at Le Mans. Karen Gaillard, also with a foot in a boot. I started to think that this was a fashion accessory within the Iron Dames for a little while. But I really hope that everybody's on the mend. I mean, particularly Michelle, because that was a story that kicked off within the race weekend. I mean, at the end of test day.
Absolutely. It was really the last pit stop, the last driver change of the day when it happened, where Michelle broke her feet. But as you said, also Karen Gaillard at the moment...
on crutches.
On crutches with a broken feet, but also she already did 2 races with a broken feet, showing we are Iron Dames, we are never ever giving up.
Too right.
I just want to be clear here, because you're not in the car. You've not been anywhere close to either of the girls, maybe with a trip up. That's not a part of this story?
Please, I'm always neutral. No, clearly this is not what we wish for each other. But yeah, we had some bad luck this season, but we will work for a turnaround very, very soon. And now let's see. I think everybody's recovering, so also on track, and I hope Celia can prove it today on track. I expect Aston Martin to be very fast in this qualifying, honestly speaking. Also, the Corvette showed very strong pace.
Yeah, we were pulling Charlie Eastwood's leg last night, saying Corvette kind of haven't been there around the quick times up until this point, but they topped free practice 1. The 59 Aston Martin that's already had a pole position this year was quickest in free practice 2. So, you know, we've got a name that's already established up there, but do you think, as a Porsche, the number 60 Porsche has gone straight on, right behind the Iron Dames car, in fact. These are team Porsches, and that's at the first chicane at Tamburello, but does manage to get back on the track. Takeshi Kimura.
That was not Takeshi Kimura, that was the highly inexperienced Christian Reed, who's again not retired this weekend either.
Yeah, exactly. He's working on that for, I don't say for years, but also it's brilliant to see Christian back in the car. We are happy to have him to replace Claudio Schiavoni. Because, as you say, Christian can jump in every car with his experience, luckily, and he's always ready. But clearly there was quickly, I suppose, a misunderstanding, because both cars, also the 85 Iron Dames of Celia, was quickly a little bit in the gravel bed. Not something we want to see in qualifying, but clearly they will sort it out on track, and fast lap has started. First
fast lap goes the way of Takeshi Kimura in the Kessel Racing car, guy number 57 Ferrari. It's a 1:44.633. You're absolutely right. With these darkening skies, everybody's on it and on it immediately. And it is going to be a matter, Johnny Palmer, of just how quickly they can translate the opportunity into form.
Yeah, so Iron Dames with that championship lead of 4 points over Richard Mille, of course, of the 50 Ferrari. Spirit of Racer up there in third as well after a couple of races. But Martin Berry might be somebody to look out for as well, because at Barcelona, that number 63 Mercedes was quickest. This is what I love about LMGT3 these days. With the change of regulation, so many more different cars have been allowed in, and I kind of don't know where to look next, especially in a bronze session, which, as we've said, normally, Rahel, gets quicker throughout it, but it's going to have to be front-loaded here with the threat of this rainfall.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now they don't have time, so they really have to go out and they have to push immediately, whether the tires are still cold or they have a little bit of temperature. Clearly, temperature is building up more and more, so we will see hopefully faster laps toward the end of qualifying, but they have to start now.
A lap set by each of the 13 cars so far. Not all of them entirely competitive yet. There's still Takeshi Kimura to the top of the times. From the 59 Racing Spirit Le Mans, we heard Rahel say she expected good things from the Aston Martin, and that's certainly the case. Martin Berry, an emerging force as a bronze in the 63 Iron Lynx AMG, and then the second of the Ferraris, the 50 Richard Mille AF Corsa car, and of Custodio Toledo. Celia Martin, first effort in the number 85 car, good enough for 7th, but she at the moment is up on the provisional pole time on her second flying lap.
Temperatures here this year have been higher just about than 12 months ago, where we were just dropping into the 30s in 2024. Speaking of just dropping into, McLaren with a couple of Goodyear tyres into the gravel trap on the exit of Variante Alta. That's the 59 car, which did come through and set the time. In fact, sorry, not the 59 car, Clément Mateur in the 59 Aston Martin, with the McLaren being driven by Michael Beer in the 23 United Autosports. Not the typical United Autosports colours, but they are McLaren Papaya colours instead.
Celia Martin completes the lap, just fails to grab provisional pole. That had been stretched the target by Clément Mathieu and that Racing Spirit Le Mans Aston Martin. And a little bit of traffic, I thought, at the end on the third sector there, Rahel.
Yeah, absolutely, but it was just fine to finish, but she's catching traffic right now, and she will clearly, at the best, is most likely to back off and start a new lap. What she will do, we see it immediately. Most likely she also got told by the team.
Are you actually on the radio too? She did it
It looks
immediately
like, right?
when you said it.
See, this is team spirit. We just feel each other. We don't even have to talk to each other. We feel each other.
And there's real pressure here. She can see the weather front coming. We can see the weather front coming. She wants to get the lap time done, but it is that discipline to say, I'm not going to get it done in these circumstances. We have to take the risk of dropping back and hoping there'll be another opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, because also in qualifying you don't take the risk of crashing into each other, because no one wants to give up your track position. This is just not something you can do, so there is only one way. We need to back off and start a new attempt.
The provisional pole sitting, the Aston Martin is on pit lane, as is the Kessel Racing 57, our early session leader in the hands of Takeshi Kimura. Celia Martin stays out, has allowed that gap to grow and will push again, I'm sure. We are halfway through this 15-minute session as Martin Berry takes the Mercedes AMG number 63 for Iron Lynx to the top of the times, and by 0.6 of a second, Johnny Palmer, it's a 1:43.799.
Yeah, so that is potentially going to be a second pole position of the season if it's enough at this stage. But the cars that are behind him on the timing screen are all actually coming in now for a new set of tyres. Remember, in the European Le Mans Series, tyres in the LMGT3 category are unlimited, so you can keep throwing tyres at these cars as much as the time allows. Just wondering if the rain does arrive, where it's likely to arrive first, because it's a very long circuit, this, and at Tosa generally that's where the rain comes in from the west of the circuit. So it might be a scenario where it's wet at one end and not at the Rivazza end, which is even more tricky. Someone's gone off big style. That's the 50 Ferrari at the top of the hill at Piritella. So the 50 car is into the gravel trap, that being driven by Custodio Toledo. And if it is going to be a session stoppage because of that, generally that will be because we're in a qualifying session, that'll be Toledo unable to rejoin the session as well as the cause of the red flag. What we don't know is how the Brazilian ended up there and whether he was helped, assisted at the top of the hill.
We're about to see, and
can't see any moisture on the racetrack. That looks like just a lose heading through the tricky left-hander, but we've got a racing driver here, so what do you reckon, Rahel?
Yeah, we spoke about it. I believe he was just in the box before, so most likely he was on his outlap or on the first flying again, because as we have seen, many cars went in to get a second set of new tires to start a second attempt. He just entered the corner too fast and lost the rear there. But as we said, they are all under pressure. They need to get the laps done, so you have to push immediately, even with cold tires.
we get the chance to just reset a little here. I wanted to ask about Celia's journey here. Was with us in the Michelin Le Mans Cup last year, not LMGT3, but GT3 and shorter races. What's the biggest transition between those two disciplines? Because it is a very different program that she's got this year coming into LMGT3.
Yes, absolutely. So the LMGT3, as we know, we have torque sensors. So we are limited also by energy per lap and per stint. Means she does not only have to do tire management like in the Michelin Le Mans Cup car, but she also have to do energy management. And that's something you have to feel, but you also have to follow strategy by the team, and there are just more information you have to cope with.
There's a lot going on, isn't there, for a young driver learning the way in some very different cars on some very different tracks against heavy opposition here, and then you've got that additional rule set into the mix. That's an awful lot with limited testing to get to.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in the end, it's all about having free capacity in the car to deal and to process all the information you get by the team. And then furthermore, we also have more traffic to manage. So it's time management, energy management, traffic management. Because competition is clearly, again, one step higher.
Now, your role, as well as still being an active driver, is about the development of this extraordinary team that's been built by the Iron Dames. Tell us a little bit about how your experience can help Celia and Karen and all the other even younger women that are coming forward in the program.
So we basically have just one strategy, and this is open communication within our driver squad and team, because there has to be an exchange of experience. That's super important. And when I can pass some experience to Celia, when we take the example of the track in Imola, where do I take care of my tires best? You know, the two last corners, both two long left-handers, there you can do tire management. Or for all the uphill parts, there you can do energy management. It's always easier when you can talk to from driver to driver.
I'm just reading a message at the bottom of our screen, Rahel, which unfortunately concerns your car, but we have to mention it, about Celia Martin potentially, she's not the only one, potentially being under investigation for breaching the
Team
red
manager,
light at the
car
end of
50.
pit lane.
Not only your driver caused the red flag, he will not be allowed to rejoin the race, and he is doing a favor of zigzagging the car on the track to drop all the gravel for the others.
Well, we told you two of those things, but now Eduardo Freitas not particularly happy that Custodio Toledo is right on the racing line as he returns to pit lane. But Celia's potentially gone through a red light. The 50 car's not going to be allowed to rejoin the session. And also the 51 car of Charlie Samani is now under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Those messages are very annoying at times, but rules are rules, I suppose, Rahal.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know rules are rules. We have to follow them. But in a super stressful situation like we have it now, mistakes simply can happen. And there you make the difference with the experience. This is very clear. So
do we think Celia was in the pit lane with the tyre change happening as the red flag came out, and therefore stopped her effectively from rejoining the session? I'm just wondering when the red light was displayed. We didn't have a safety car or anything out on the racetrack, so it had to have been surely when the red flag came out, and then she's got to a point of being very close.
We saw her leave the pit stall.
Before the red flag?
Before the red flag. She was having the tyres. So I'm guessing it was one of those judgments, but probably she's on the gas and the red flag comes out, and unfortunately, it's the only thing I can possibly think of.
Well, it's only an investigation at this time, so we haven't actually got an answer
because
yet.
she's way back in that queue. So it must have been as the red flag came out, and the red light, therefore, would have come on concurrently with that. So, it's judgment and it's luck, I'm afraid, at that point. I've no idea what the sight lines are like here for the red lights.
Usually in the car you get a reminder from your engineer, but it can also be that an engineer in that moment is quickly busy, talking to the tire mounting guys, whatever.
I reckon it's 3 seconds. As the red flag came out, it was 2:38 and 36 seconds, and she's potentially left the pit lane at 39 seconds. So, and those times are not always spot on accurate. So give or take, it might be like a 1 second or less than 1 second thing. So this is why an investigation is necessary. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we will. I mean, the game, I guess, now is to keep spirits up, keep focus, go again if there's the opportunity to go again. We've got 6.5 minutes of track time still available when this session goes back to green. It is still really dark out there. To give you an idea in real terms what we're seeing out of the window here, there is a bit of a breeze picking up, which tends to indicate there's some kind of front coming through because we've not had much of a breeze over the last couple of days. Looks to me like dusk out there at the moment, and it is 14:45 local time.
Can we just take a moment to celebrate windows in our commentary booth, though?
That's
because
nice.
I don't think we ever have those, do we, Graham?
Well, we don't have a commentary booth
Normally
normally.
it's
Normally a blacked out
It's
truck.
a closet somewhere with a load of brooms in the corner.
Well, we've actually had a couple of questions about this on the Orwick Discord channel, and asking whether or not this will become a regular thing to have guests in the booth. The answer is yes. That is our intention. There's new kit coming our way. We're being asked what we'd like for that,
But they have to bring ice cream, generally.
They have to bring ice cream, and therefore Rahel has
I
failed.
got it. I
failed
absolutely
miserably.
got it.
Thank you.
I got the
Thank you.
message.
You know, she swears to no Toblerone. I mean, it's awful, awful. But look, it's a delight to be able to have people that can add colour to the action, and we're seeing a very dusty number 50 car there. Tell us a little bit about LMGT3. I mean, GTE was where we saw the Iron Dames emerge in the first instance, and it's fair to say that we enjoyed several seasons of watching you and the other girls thoroughly enjoying that level of competition, and massive respect being shown. I mean, the qualifying sessions with the Sarah versus Ben show was one of the highlights of the WEC in that era. Moving to LMGT3, the depth, the quality of competition now has taken another step. It may be that these are less pure racing cars from the likes of a pro driver like yourself, but the depth of competition here and the intermark competition has taken another step.
Oh yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Competition has taken its next step, which makes it clearly for us, also for us drivers, much more interesting.
Yeah.
It's much more intense out there. There is less room for error.
Yeah.
But clearly, I would say, you know, the old the GTE cars without ABS. We had clearly traction control, but we were not, kind of controlled by the torque sensor. So there was less management.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way: less tire management, less energy management, and now you just, if you understand the system well, and you're a driver which can cope with the information and you can execute well,
Yeah.
you definitely have an advantage.
This is where the entire sport is going to take a massive swing, because, as we all know, there is one part of the human race that is better at multitasking than the other part.
Well, that's true. And it's not being you, Graham.
No, it's not. But it is an interesting thing, isn't it? And when we've seen these technological shifts, we saw it from in LMP1 with the move to hybrid technology, and a generation of drivers, many of them decided, actually, it's not my time. This is not where my forte
1 minute
is.
to open pit exit. 1 minute to reopen pit exit.
And again here, there's an opportunity for a whole new generation of competitors, whether it's bronze, silver, gold and platinum, to find a niche that suits their skill set better, whether or not that's the physical skill set or the mental skill set.
Yes, absolutely. But what we cannot forget is now we are using, basically all categories are using the GT3 chassis. It's the same engine. So we make it affordable, or let's say we make it accessible to a much wider range of drivers. And this is exactly what a championship like ELMS and WAC, what they wanted to achieve. And I think this goal is absolutely achieved. And we drivers, whatever car we can jump in, we have to deal with it. If we like it or not, it's just our task.
We're about to go back to
4,
green.
3, 2, 1. Pit exit is now open. Pit exit is now open.
One quick question before we get back to the meaningful lap chasing track action. There's an important shift happened with the Iron Dames project. This is now a Porsche affiliated program. Tell us a little bit about that change, because it's got an impact in all sorts of layers to your program.
Yes, absolutely, and we share same values. Porsche, they have a brilliant junior program, and we also try to do the same, because we have seen if we invest in the young talents, this is basically our future of the project. So there we can really combine our forces, and that's why such a partnership makes sense for both sides.
And that means we've now got Michelle as a Porsche contracted driver. Karen has obviously won that junior contest.
Absolutely,
and is
yeah.
doing the cup side. And then you've got this whole squadron of young ladies coming up through karting and from other formula that might well eventually be part of this program in the future.
Absolutely, that's the task. This is what we try to achieve with it, and I'm quite confident that it will work out. And but I clearly hope until then I can also do a couple more races. But we clearly pass on our experience, and in the end, racing is a life passion for all of us.
Is there an interest from the Iron Dames project to also put females into cars that have guys in as well? Because I think about Sophia Flörsch in the past and Lily Wadu, who's doing a really good job as well. The development is clearly the important thing, but then you can allow them to maybe spread their wings in the future?
Absolutely, I believe this is just a matter of time. And this is also something we try to aim for with our strategy, especially for the young girls coming from single-seaters.
Yes.
Like in Formula 4 now, I hope clearly they can also take the road into prototypes. We will never know. At the moment we are clearly open for everything. But I'm also happy to see that we still have, let's say, our core team competing together in a championship like ELMS.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's still incredibly important to have the Iron Dames car, you know, no matter who may be in it from one season to the next. But it would be good to then see the people that have benefited from that scheme moving forward, maybe into hypercar in the future. You know, to have a lot of females or some females in the top class at Le Mans, that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Fingers crossed, absolutely. I'm with you, and as I said, I hope it's just a matter of time, but a little bit more time is needed there.
Clearly. Yeah.
One final question from me, because we're getting to the end of this effective warm-up lap after the brief interruption for the red flag. We're not going to ask you to make any announcements here, that's not fair. But my guess, having watched the ambition emerge with the Iron Dames around the world and the multiple programs involved, are there some exciting things that we might hear about in the next year or two? You've gone quiet.
I mean, you should know the Iron Dames. We are always open for surprises, right? And yeah, no, I can definitely not tell anything. But as I said, we are Iron Dames. We always try to aim for higher, to aim for more. But right now, let's focus on Imola, and I think we can agree we all love to be in Italy.
So then my final quick point on this one, as we start to see the first of the cars that can cross the line to start a flying lap, is going to be the 74 Kessel Racing Ferrari. You haven't been to European Le Mans Series or WC Race, do come along. And by the way, do say hello to anybody from the Iron Dames team. They are always delighted to speak about this programme. And in particular, if you're bringing a partner, a daughter, get them involved and get them excited about this one, because that's what this is all about. It is that power of dreams that's been the big part of it. And do take the opportunity to cross swords a little bit and ask a question, because that's what this is about, just as much in being out there and competing and winning.
Thank you very much for giving me a task for the weekend.
Right, we're back into track action. 2 minutes to go, and the majority of the cars, in fact all the cars remaining in the session, Johnny, now onto flying laps, and two of them, and it is the top two cars at the moment in the order, are already up on Martin Berry's provisional pole setting time, and one of them is Martin Berry.
And Custodio Toledo, to remind you, got the message eventually, a firm one from Eduardo Freitas, that he will have to leave that 50 car parked fifth fastest. That time will still stand, so it's still a third row start at the moment, and therefore decent. But yes, Martin Berry, off the back of that pole position in Barcelona at the start of the year, the number 63 Mercedes, quickest so far, maybe going even quicker, half a second clear of Clément Matter, who's the other driver who had a pole position here at, not here, but in Le Castellet a few weeks ago. No rain yet is the word from Steph down in pit lane. We did have a warning, though, on one of our many chat channels that by about 5 o'clock this evening, which should be well after qualifying, big thunderstorms are going to arrive in this part of Emilia-Romagna, Graham.
I think we did hear, though, from Steph that she can see lightning and hear thunder on the horizon somewhere, so it's coming. I'm watching the German flag on top of the Proton garage, and that is beginning to show signs it's more than a bit of a breeze. And all of a sudden we're hearing there is rain now. Clément Mathieu goes through, completes his flying lap with the fastest third sector, but no, it's an improvement in time, but no improvement in position. things are going to happen very quickly, but we're in the last 30 seconds of this session, so it may well not firmly impact this part of the qualifying session, but boy, the prototypes are going to have their hands full.
Yeah, and remember they got downforce, but what tyres are you going to select? Because I don't think any of the categories have intermediate tyres these days, so it's going to either be the slick or the full wet, and is all the track going to be wet at any point? So certainly when the rain first arrives, I don't think it will be, as the number 23 McLaren threads its way now through the Villeneuve chicane. The checkered flag's being displayed, although nobody's going to see it because they're all actually in the second sector. Let's hope the rain doesn't arrive at Tosa at this point, but a slippery surface warning now at turn 5, which is the first bit of the Villeneuve chicane.
And 2 cars out on this final flying lap are up on the provisional pole time. One of them is Celia Martin in the number 85 Porsche, as Rahel Frey just takes another step forward, leans towards the monitor and looks closely at it. Takeshi Kimura is the other in the Kessel Racing number 57, the bright yellow car. They are the 2 at the moment up on the provisional pole time.
So Martin Berry, with everything in his hands at this stage, but where precisely is he on the racetrack? He's just coming out of Variante Alta and not set to improve. Celia Martin could well jump ahead of Clement Matter and possibly Martin Berry. Has she got enough in hand now in the final sector? So appearing into Rivazza now in the pink and white Iron Dames colours. Rivazza 1 looks good from this perspective. Clement Matter's already across the line. He'll be no faster than second as the Mercedes bails on that lap. So Martin Berry comes into pit lane. It's all about these final few kinks to the checkered flag. Can Celia Martin bag a pole position here at Imola? And the answer is no, because it's third position, although that was an improvement of 1:44.0, but not quite quick enough to jump ahead of Clement Matter's Racing Spirit of Le Mans Aston Martin. And the Martin Berry Mercedes, is everybody now home? Yes, either in the pit lane or they've seen the checkered flag, so it will be a second pole of the season for Iron Lynx with their Mercedes number 63 for Australian driver Martin Berry. Great.
The sort of the brother team to the Iron Dames here. There is our LMGT3 pole position setting car. Martin Berry is I think out of the car and congratulating the team. No, he's still in the car by the look of things. Clement Mathieu will be alongside on the front row. Fine effort from Celia Martin at the end of that session, but not quite enough there, Rahel, in the tank in that final sector.
Despite Rahel actually jumping around in her seat to try and get that few more kph across the line, but just narrowly missed out.
Yeah, but P3 is still a solid, is still a solid performance. I'm also happy clearly to see Iron Lynx with the Mercedes on pole, because it's well deserved. It's their home race. They always have a lot of support from family, all the team members. So well done to them. And clearly we will take the action from P3. As I said, it's very solid. The 3 girls together, it's a solid package. So I'm happy and I can't wait for tomorrow's race.
We're delighted you've joined us for the LMGT3 qualifying session. I know you've got to fly this evening. I'd like you to just do one more thing on behalf of us and on behalf of the fans. Take our best wishes to Claudio Schiavone for his continued recovery. Nasty when you've got a kind of back injury. That is the final standings after qualifying in LMGT3, and the Iron Dames sitting there third. Racing Spirit Le Mans, the Aston Martin second. You're quite right, Rahel, they were indeed very quick indeed. And Iron Lynx and the Mercedes AMG, a programme that's coming on very strong indeed, top the times there. We'll say our farewells. We hope to see you next time out. Give our best wishes to the boys and girls down at both the Iron Dames and indeed Iron Lynx for what we hope is going to be a fantastic weekend of racing.
Thank you so much, and also to you, all the best. Enjoy. See you next time.
We will, I'm sure. Safe travels. And yeah, we move on now to the LMP3 category, which will see 10 cars heading out onto a racetrack which is at the moment dry, but is rather unpredictable with lightning flashes. We've got flecks of rain on our commentary box windows.
It's gone dark. It's just dark. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, very dark. So that means that the decision's got to be made either now, if you're in the queue, or in the next few moments. And it may well be that, for instance, the 17 crew who have had the lockout in terms of pole positions to this point, Adrian Clomenil, this, by the way, is not restricted at all by your driver grading, so you can put your fastest driver in for qualifying in LMP3, and Adrian Clomeneel has proven to be the cream of the crop, if you like, when it comes to qualifying these particular cars. And although they're leading the championship as well after a couple of wins and 2 pole positions, so a maximum points haul for the crew in number 17, Theodor Jensen, Paul Lachaire and Adrian Clomeneel, who has been doing the times to this point. But out we go, an exploratory lap first of all, and I just wonder whether are we going to have a mixture of tyres potentially here, Graham? There were wet weather tyres on the apron.
They can't use them, it's not been declared wet.
Okay, so a slippery surface does not actually constitute a wet track. It's merely a meaning that there's been a change of surface. But let's follow up the news from the previous session for LMGT3. Mercedes on pole position. Let's head to Steph Wentworth.
Hello everyone, I am joined in the pit lane by Lorcan Hannafin, driver of the number 63 Iron Lynx. We've just seen Martin jump out of the car off to scrutineering, but it was quite a dicey session with whether or not the rain was going to come.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and our place in pit lane as well, we're so far down the end. So we really struggled to get in and build a nice gap in traffic, but Martin did a fantastic job as always. Yeah, credit to the team as well. The car was actually only ready 20 seconds before we could push out. So yeah, just really happy for them. They deserve it so much, and yeah, really delighted with the result.
It's a second pole position for you guys this season, so you're forging ahead, and it looks to be a good start.
Yeah, I mean, the package we have is really strong. Obviously, with myself, Martin, and Fabi together, we're a strong dynamic trio. So yeah, I mean, obviously qualifying's one part of it, but the race is tomorrow, and if it's going to be weather like this and lightning like that, then we'll see. All
right, best of luck. Thank you.
Cheers.
The problem with the Barcelona pole was that they then went on to a non-finish in Spain. However, Le Castellet in the south of France was a lot better. Second position in the end, and only 0.3 of a second off the number 50 Ferrari, which of course didn't produce couldn't rejoin the session. It did yet get a time with Custodio Toledo. Now, has somebody gone straight on at that left-hand kink into the first chicane? There's wheel tracks there, but I just wonder whether that's from a previous point of the day.
I think it was a previous point of the day. We have got heavy rain in the first part of this circuit, and also a fair amount of debris from the forest around here, getting on track as well. So the wind has certainly picked up. This might pass through remarkably quickly.
It's probably not all of the storm that is expected between 5 and 6 o'clock tonight. It's just that preamble, if you like, when the heavens really will open later on. It's Canton Antonel, by the way, down at Tosa. Now we do have messages, LED messages, and the track has finally been declared wet. So now it is damp enough for those wet weather tyres to potentially enter the frame. Everyone will be on slicks at this point. Who will be the first to blink, if you like, head down to pit lane and then see whether the wet weather tyres are better at this stage of the day?
Well, they're going to stick with the project here as long as there is grip and as long as it is safe to do so. More lightning lights up the commentary booth. Big, heavy drops of rain dropping on the windows of this commentary box and the windscreen of the M Racing Ligier there. So this is tippy-toe stuff. Remember, in LMP3, you're not restricted to having the bronze driver in the car. It's the full pro drivers can be put their shoulders to the yoke, if you like, and it is at the moment first car to pass the finish line, Guillaume Henrion. Times are coming down. Ian Aguilera at the top of the times to the number 11 in your international car.
The other interesting thing I've just noticed about this car, the 17, it's not Adrian Clomeneel, who already has 2 pole positions to his name. Instead, they put the Danish youngster Theodor Jensen in. Now, is that because this weather's a bit more Danish and therefore, you know, he'll be more comfortable with the car moving around than maybe Clomeneel? But Clomeneel, you can't spot a blot on the copybook so far from the Frenchman.
It's 3 purple sectors, though, from Theo Jensen. And, oh, that's someone off the road. And that is the number 11 car. That is Ian Aguilera. As the Ginetta, the number 4 car, passes the car that's at a bit of a clatter through the gravel trap.
Excellent result for a Ginetta LMP3 car, by the way, at the road to Le Mans.
First ever win at Le Mans by the Ginetta mark in any class, and I gather the phone has started ringing it, Garth.
Well, that's how you generate business, that's how you generate interest, isn't it? Start winning races, and it was a terrific event in the end on that Saturday morning. Arguably the Thursday race was perhaps more entertaining at times, but no, really good result for this brand new Ginetti. Remember, there's been a full reset on the rules for LMP3. There were 2 cars off, actually, at Villeneuve chicane. Ian Aguilera following, I think, the 88 car. 68 car of Canton Antonel. So did it go off in sympathy? Also, Theodor Jensen's been off at the same point of the racetrack.
Well, the pointer that things are beginning to go badly wrong in terms of track temps and grip levels is about half the field improved their time in Sector 1. Nobody's improved in Sector 2. And I think we're getting to that tipping point where whether or not anybody chooses to stop for wet weather tyres, times will not improve with the rain falling as it now is pretty much, I think, around 2/3, 3/4 of the track.
Also, somebody is off at Variante Alta because there are double waved yellows being shown there, although they are now removed. Several cars, perhaps all of them now heading into pit lane. So
there's no improvement to be made. So there's 2 choices here. You come out, are you going to go quicker on wets? Yes or no? You certainly don't want to risk the car. So you've got 2 choices right now. Try on wets to see whether or not there's an improvement to be made, or frankly, session over.
Well, at this stage, it's the same crew that have been setting all the pole positions, but a very different driver in Theo Jensen, who has done the 145.844, which might be enough. Surely nobody's going to go any quicker now the rain has really started to empty and all the way around the racetrack. Initially, when the track was declared wet, it was only a few corners, but now it's certainly raining down with us at pit entry. That will probably cover Rivazza as well, the double left-hander at turns 18 and 90. And just hearing that the 68 car...
Changed to slicks.
Changing from slicks, possibly. Yeah, changing from slicks to wet weather tyres.
Friends that look after that aspect of it, but we'll keep an eye on things. At the moment, you are, frankly, not missing much other than a weather radar screen, which makes for a very pretty picture.
Pit lane, information to pit lane. We will not be giving any new informations between 15:30. Until 15:30, we're not going to change anything. We will have more news at 15:30.
So that's 10 minutes, just about. And the chat still is there for you to utilise, but I suppose if you can't hear our voices, then we can try and... Oh, OK, excellent.
Welcome back.
Good.
Not got a lot we can tell you. You can see what the picture is here. It is staggering to think that the picture you're seeing there, we were at about 35 degrees what feels like half an hour ago. And to say that it's cooled down dramatically, Olivier Panis from VTS, what a stellar run they had at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 48 car. And by the way, they're looking fantastic in the European Le Mans Series this year.
Yeah. And the problem at the end of the race, which slowed the car, was suspension related?
Suspension, and they had to crawl around to the finish. Gutting stuff right at the end.
Because the 43 car got a penalty, didn't it, and had to come into pit lane to serve that.
And looked like they were going to win.
It put Esteban Masson into the lead in the TDS car.
In the Panis car,
beg pardon. And then it started to slow, and at the time I don't think anybody really knew precisely why the car was slowing, but he just had to keep chugging round. And
basically front corner failure on that car, but they managed to get the car to the end. I want to basically say, by the way, on occasion in any form of racing, but endurance racing is my thing, you see a driver perform at a level that you'd not quite seen before. I mean, a good example of it was some years ago, Marcel Fessler, before he became a key part of the Audi program. In the rain, at the Spa 24 Hours, battered the field, frankly. Maxime Martin, another. We saw, I think, another one of those, and it's a young man I'm going to be keeping an eye on for the rest of this season, and that's Ollie Gray aboard that 48 car. He had an absolutely outstanding Le Mans. And spoke briefly to Ollie about it when we arrived here a couple of days ago. And suffice it to say, he's got a bit of a spring in his step after that, because it is that one of those moments, isn't it? I think in any major professional career, you sort of got to prove to yourself you can do it. And he certainly did. And it was consistently, world-class pace from him.
He likes this track because I've already written down his name from 2024. He topped Free Practice 1 12 months ago at this venue when he was racing with Inter Europol competition, 131.236. Nobody's gone. Did Ben Hanley go quicker than that? 1:31.8, so no. And the Danny Juncadella time, you were spot on that it was Danny Juncadella, and he didn't go quicker than Ollie Gray's time from 2024 either. Now, part of that is temperature related, because free practice 1 was held in 34 degrees, as Philippe Albuquerque offers a bit of non-local knowledge there.
Yeah, what he's saying there is the expert. He says he thinks it's raining.
Yeah, and from this direction.
He amazes me, the level of analysis he's able to provide just by looking out the door. Philippe Albuquerque, world class.
I think you've got a future at the Portuguese weather service with that knowledge.
Almost certainly.
I think he was also saying 45 degrees, so diagonal rain.
Yes,
diagonal rain.
Exactly right. Your Portuguese is getting better and better.
I know. Yeah, but he's a good teacher.
Still maintain it's not a language where they just put no at the end of every word. It's not that.
Diagonal-lo.
Yes.
Rayno.
Yes.
34.3 was free practice 1. Then it's a mere 32 degrees Celsius this morning for free practice 2.
Autumnal.
Yeah, but bear in mind, track temperature, I mean, we were up at the 48s yesterday, 48.3 down at road level. And now it's not chilly out there. It's still an incredibly warm day, but the rain is meaning that you just cannot even attempt to put even the LMP2 Pro drivers out in this. It's not the fact that these are bronze drivers that need to do the session. By the way, bottom of your screen is how the championship is currently panning out after
really
1/3 of the season. Right.
That's LMP2 Pro Nielsen Racing from TDS. AF Courses 83, the 20, Algarve Pro, the top 4. This weather front is moving on through quite quickly. I will tell you, I did say there were clear skies visible on the horizon. Not any more than aren't. So we're in the middle of this storm front right now. Let's wait and see. As we heard from Eduardo Freitas, we'll hear nothing more before 15:13. It might well be a little bit longer than that before we can start to think about when racing, when lappery at any kind of speed is going to be safe and possible. But it's absolutely the case. This is not raceable at the moment.
Yeah, and it might require Eduardo Freitas and the rest of his team to actually go out in a road vehicle just to assess the drainage. But it's one thing the rain stopping or at least lessening, but then how well does the standing water begin to drain? We've suggested that actually this track's pretty good at that. I think the gradient helps, but what you're going to get is a river running down towards Tosa, so fighting that on the way up, and then down the hill the other side into Rivazza. Matt Bell has clearly got a dinner to get to.
No. I think he was just looking at his Rolex watch for the win at the Rolex 24 Daytona, which I gather he has not taken off since at all.
Brilliant.
So, Matt there with some kind of wristage on both arms, but on his left arm, that is indeed the hugely prized Rolex watch that you get for winning that class. Something that
wouldn't want to get it wet though, would you?
Well, I think it would probably work perfectly.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true. I mean, we're talking ridiculous standards of manufacturing there, aren't we? So
I would ask our mutual friend Alan McNish, but he's never won one. So,
Ollie Gavin,
did he get one? He did win the class. He'll be on the blower to me immediately. Probably not. That fantastic finish at the end of the race with the two
when they were
Corvettes.
virtually side by side.
Yeah.
Was he in the winning car?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so he will have a Rolex then.
Very keen to remind me whenever I diss his career, which is often.
A 24-hour race when he didn't crash.
Yeah, I know.
I just about remember that.
Keep saying it. We talk a lot about the 5 wins at Le Mans. We don't talk about the 14 times he didn't win, ever.
No,
I think
never.
we should talk more about it.
Well, now's your chance.
I could take you through. No.
No. That weather's definitely moving. Whether it's improving at all is tricky to say, but there is a gap behind it. The question is, how severe is that next rain band, and can we squeeze in 2 LMP2 Pro sessions in that gap of 15 minutes each?
It's moving to the east, and I think there will be some time at some point. It comes down to when is this going to stop and how quickly will it drain. But we started to see at the end of the LMP3 session that was just not raceable, not in any meaningful sense, and certainly not for a qualifying session.
The difficulty here as well is that were this a race, you could put cars behind the safety car and they would go around for a few laps and help to clear the track, but you can't do that in a qualifying session.
You can't. No.
So that's not an option for the team here.
Qualifying's a test of pace, not survival. That's the point here, isn't it? And in particular, your next session at the moment is
But when you're trying to hurry up the drying of the track,
Yeah.
it's really tough now when we're partway through a qualifying session. I was telling you about the times that we've had so far. So let's stick with LMP2 Pro Am. Free practice 1, I'm going to edge towards that rather than free practice 2. Generally, free practice 1 is favoured, I think. But TDS Racing, quickest in that from Proton Competition, the number 77 crew. And then Algarve Pro Racing in number 20. So it might be a grid shape that way. We'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, though, let's see who Steph has caught up with in the garages.
Yes, hello from a very wet pit lane. I am joined by Dan Schneider, driver of the number 21 United Autosport, and we were just talking about how inconvenient this weather has turned.
Oh yes, we spent the whole week here. It was like 40 degrees. The car was ready for that, and now we have a wet session. So it's going to be completely different than we were expecting.
How are you in the wet air, and how are you expecting when you finally get out? Of course, the track will still be wet. It won't have had time to dry out yet. So what are your expectations when you do finally get in the car and hopefully this passes?
Assuming we don't have standing water, it's going to be fine. I have high expectations because we tested here and we had 2 days completely wet in Imola. So maybe this plays in our favor, hopefully.
So you've got the experience. What about the potential that we may end up seeing a little bit of rain tomorrow in the race? Technically, this will give you a little bit of experience at what it's like here in Imola this weekend.
Oh, that's news for me because I haven't seen the potentially. Yeah, this is going to help, but most importantly was the testing. We test a lot in the wet. I was blaming the team for organizing a test in the wet conditions, and now I see that maybe it's going to pay off. So it's going to help also if it rains. It's going to be like a quali, but more like a practice. So getting the right points again, braking points, everything, the lines. So even though it's a short session, but it's going to be great. I mean, it's wet, it's different. We are looking at the weather forecast there. It doesn't look very appealing, but let's see how it goes.
Right, well, hope you get in the car soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Doesn't look very appealing is perhaps the understatement of the day. Unfortunately, there are people, as I've mentioned, that are having to stay out on the racetrack and be in this, like the camera operators, like some of our colleagues, in fact, who have been sweating for the last few days taking photographs and are now drenched.
Yeah, it's what can you say? The breed that is the motorsport photographer. You know, as a writer and broadcaster, we have an odd relationship with them, mainly contempt.
Yes,
it's fair to say,
and that's reciprocal.
Completely. I would be really very, very disappointed if it wasn't. Their level of technical capability, creativity, bringing joy to the world with their particular skill set is often vastly overrated, I think, and I'm sure this current weather condition is not necessarily helping that. I'm sure right now there is a succession of what can only be described as drowned rat-like creatures returning to the media centre. Some of them, I'm afraid, potentially with some ruined gear, because I'm not sure that they would have gone out with weather protection for the gear, and that, by the way, is not funny.
No.
That's so. If all joking aside, boys and girls, I do hope you're all safe and if not dry out there, certainly in some shelter, and in particular, your gear is in good shape. Just looking beyond Francois Perotto, between the two red boards in the background, that is Amato Ferrari in the black shirts by the back door of the garage, chatting away. Good to see that he's here and overseeing the multi-class efforts of the AF Corsa Empire. It's the 83 car. Francois Perotto, it is due to take that car out. Multiple championship winner in all sorts of classes and races in what's been a fantastic AM career for him. Worth saying, there's often sometimes unkind words said about the amateur drivers in international sports car racing. God knows why. Worth saying, by the way, that everybody in that shot is in employment thanks to their passion. It's a very big part of the culture of sports car racing, is the passion of the gentlemen and lady drivers that repeatedly put their time and their resource and their passion into gear and come out here racing and bring us some fabulous efforts. Dan Schneider, another of them.
should this persist, I'm hearing, with thanks to Samantha Roche of the European Le Mans Series, that we can potentially push things back to the latest 8 o'clock tonight. So I've just suggested that's quite a lot of talking for you and I to do.
What time does the gelateria
Oh,
close?
good point. 11, I think.
Oh,
Wasn't
okay.
it 11 o'clock last night?
It's,
So
only
still
it's only 3 hours of ice cream.
rather than the prescribed 6 hours that
Absolutely.
you normally need to go through every single flavour. So
We've got a big window. Let's put it that way. I mean that in terms of the time and not the side, the wall in front of us in the booth. I know Steph is running up and down pit lane at the moment as fast as a little electrical carrier and looking for willing victims. And she's found one, I think.
yeah, so let's catch up with Steph now, jumping between the puddles, trying to stay dry as she possibly can. Steph, who have you got?
Doing my best in these very wet conditions, as you say, Johnny. But I am joined now with Rhys Gold, driver of the number 88 into Europol competition, an LMP3 car, and one of those who went out on the wet tyres after it was declared wet.
Yeah, it was definitely, super tricky qualifying. One lap on the slicks, and even that was a bit damp. And then we just did a quick lap on the wets, and you can see it's mega wet out there, like torrential downpour, just very wet. So we'll see how the P2s handle it, but yeah, definitely was tricky.
And what was the thought process behind going out again on the wet tyres? Because obviously you weren't going to set a faster time. Was it just to gain a little bit of experience of what the track was like?
Yeah, for sure. It might rain tomorrow, so we're like, obviously, let's go slow, not risk anything, but let's just kind of see how it feels on the wets, get a feel for it, and just learn as much as we can.
All right, well, best of luck for the race tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rhys, yet another young driver from right around the planet. Pretty much every continent bar Antarctica has been represented in the LMS of late. This is Pedro Cachera, I believe, our safety car driver. And you can see the amount of standing water that the Porsche safety car is encountering there. It's going to take a while for this to get to the stage where it's raceable.
Yeah, and there'll be some drivers now wondering if they will be required at all, because if they've been assigned as the qualifying driver, you think about the LMP2 Pro-Ams, they always knew that they were going to be involved in qualifying. The benefit, I suppose, that the LMP2 drivers have, the bit with the cars without the Pro-Am bit at the end, is that they've got a bit more notice, assuming that this next session runs to its full 15 minutes, so they can be away and in team hospitality, maybe getting a bit of a drink ahead of their duties. Francois Perrodo and others having to be on a pretty short call. We got through to 3:30. What was the next message to suggest when the next update was going to... We haven't had one.
That.
Okay.
Just by the way, I might correct myself here. I'm not sure that is Pedro Cachera. That might well be Yannick Dalmas as the driver, the advisor to race control here, just assessing, as has often been his wont, the track conditions. And there'll be a lot of people around the planet that will remember his efforts at Le Mans some years ago when we had Audi safety cars and the astonishing drift that we saw from him in assessing track conditions. And I think the answer to that was it was too wet at that point. I think it's a little bit too wet here, although it has, for the moment, stopped raining.
I was just about to say that. I didn't want to speak too soon. It's become lighter in the pit lane. What we don't know is how heavy it is at Tosa, at one end of the circuit. That's the western end of the Enzo Edino Ferrari venue here in Emilia-Romagna, and then Rivazza, which is at the other end, the eastern end of the racetrack. But although it's still damp on the very edges of the racetrack by the white lines, once cars start to circulate, and I'm talking probably in the next 10 minutes if a session goes live again, it might not take too much time to clear some of that water. The next update, we did have a message about that. In fact, Graham, it was 15:40. So 2 more minutes to go, and then we get another update, which might be wait another 10 minutes.
Right, well, 2 things we can report. It is that the skies are certainly lighter. As you can hear on the broadcast, and as you can see on the broadcast, we've still got thunder and lightning playing somewhere. The rain is falling less heavily, without a shadow of a doubt. And we're about to see just how well this circuit does actually drain. But what was very clear from the passage of the the safety car is there is standing water at multiple points around this circuit.
And the other messages that we've had on the screen, they were actually prior to 3:30, but refer to the 85 Iron Dames Porsche and its investigation, I assume, on whether Celia Martin went through a red light or not when the red flags came out. Next information will be at 3:50, so as I suspected, it's going to be at least another 10 minutes before we get further news. There's a big puddle virtually right across the racetrack on the exit of Villeneuve. That won't be the only spot, but that will be one of the areas preventing us from putting this session live.
One other investigation, by the way, we're being told underway, that is into the 86 car, the GR Racing Ferrari, Mike Wainwright, alleged impeding in what would be the LMGT3 session before this rain came. The Porsche safety car is continuing to circulate and will be reporting back to race control about the live track situation here.
What is it meant by the phrase alleged impeding, you might be asking? Well, if a car is on a fast lap and the 86 car in this example is on the racing line and not going quickly enough, then that can be suggested that you're blocking, may not even be deliberate, but you're preventing a fellow competitor from pushing hard and generating a quick lap time. So if that's, and no doubt lots of footage will be looked at from various onboards and from exterior cameras as well, to see whether enough evidence can be generated to back that up or not.
Well, interesting. That's a driver getting in, then getting back out again. That's Rodrigo Salas. So we'll keep an eye open for, an ear open for what we're being told by race control. Visually, it's lighter. Visually, the rainfall is lighter. The problem now, Johnny, is track condition. And again, just off the apex of that turn, standing water, and again there.
We are hopefully still going to enjoy 2 LMP2 qualifying sessions, though, ahead of the third race of the European Le Mans Series for 2025. We had a bit more news regarding LMP2 and its future at Le Mans, didn't we?
A lot of news about it. Some good news for some less good news for others. But what we are going to see with the next iteration of LMP2. So these cars, the Oreca 07, obviously absolutely dominates the marketplace now. Will continue to 2028. But after that, it'll be a marketplace with 2 chassis manufacturers. Oreca will continue. Ligier will join them in the marketplace. And the powertrain for the new formula will be under the auspices of Gibson, who currently provide the dual-like 4.2-litre V8. We don't know with what yet, okay? Because what we absolutely know is a number of people who tendered for these contracts put in multiple bids with different powertrain options. So we wait to find out what that's going to be.
So we don't know size of engine, we don't know naturally aspirated or turbocharged. I'm guessing not a hybrid.
We don't. No, it won't be a hybrid.
That's what I thought.
We don't know gearbox supplier because that's part of the powertrain supply. We don't know electronic supplier.
Gearbox at the moment is X-Track in these cars.
Yeah, it's X-Track, and that's been hugely successful. I would be surprised if there was a change. But I know the boys and girls at Gibson in Repton in Derbyshire in the UK were mightily relieved with the announcement from the ACO at Le Mans, and I'll add to those that I've seen in the paddock here, to everybody listening and watching at home that's involved in that, congratulations. It's been hard-earned, not least through the quality of the package and the quality of the customer service that's gone with it, because that's been a huge part of the growth of this formula. Nick Manassian and Jamie Chadwick with their backs to the camera. Rude, I call it.
What they're doing is making sure that, the people on the outside, that's me and you, Graham, can't penetrate what has been such a successful team to this point this year. I don't think anybody necessarily expected. Jamie Chadwick, probably top of the list, expected this team to start to be able to win out of the box. But it was a slightly more unusual win in Barcelona with a number of safety cars. We had a few neutralisations of the race, but fewer of them in Le Castellet. It's been it's been back-to-back wins so far for the number 18 crew.
It has. They didn't have a particularly brilliant Le Mans, I'm afraid. They've had all sorts of travails thrown at them, not least, by the way, something I only found out when I spoke to him at Scrutineering at Le Mans, is that between race 2 of the European Le Mans Series and Le Mans, Mathis Jobert had a bout of meningitis, would you believe. He's fine, he's back in the saddle. Here's another of the stories of LMP2. We talked about the longevity of this formula. It goes back to 2017, the current rule set. This is a 2017 car. This is chassis number 5. And the day after we raced at Paul Ricard, was delighted to be invited to Orica with my friend and colleague Stephen Kilby. And on the floor, as it were, was chassis number 140.
Blimey.
Since 2017. It's been a phenomenal success, and what a phenomenal performance package the Orica 07. Here comes the safety car.
I have some information to suggest that the storms locally are going to continue till about 6 o'clock tonight, but there may well be this opening. The radar that we caught sight of on our screen a couple of seconds ago suggests there's going to be a gap, and it's certainly less heavy, the rain. So Yannick Dalmas, we think, in this safety car, will head out again. Eduardo Freitas may even be in the Porsche to assess at ground level.
I can see the ground is steaming.
Yep.
So that's going to help to clear at least some of the water there. And then we've got, I'm just trying to see if we can see who's in the car at the moment. It is just the driver aboard the car.
Right. So that's just Eduardo then, having a bit of fun.
Well, look at the that's not spray, by the way, we're coming through. It's steaming in front of the car at various points. And that's because just the build-up of heat in the ground here. It has been, we were saying earlier, Johnny, weren't we, in all the years that I've certainly been covering and talking about European Le Mans Series racing, this is the second warmest lead up to a race I can ever remember. And that was only topped by, was it 2 summers ago at Aragon? 44, 45 degrees at that point.
Okay, yes.
And it's not felt much cooler than that.
I think that was 2023, yes, because we had the one visit to Mugello last year, which obviously isn't repeated in this year's calendar, and the year prior to that, it was 2 spots in Spain, and actually not that far away from Barcelona, towards Zaragoza, and to the Aragon circuit for, again, a one-off appearance for the European Le Mans Series. But Spain in June, July, especially inland Spain, phenomenally hot. That was well into the 40s in terms of air temperature.
Just a moment, by the way, while we're watching this process underway. This is not joyriding. This is taking a look at what the point at which we get to a tipping point and that track action might become viable again. A moment to tell you what is left in this calendar. We only reached the halfway point at the end of this weekend. We've still got Spa, Portimão, the now traditional season end, but back to Silverstone. And if you are in and around the UK for the European Le Mans Series, please come and see us. It's going to be, I think, an absolute festival of motorsport there. It's a meeting backed by our friends and colleagues at Goodyear. I'm hearing that a very large number of tickets have already been sold, and we are expecting a monster crowd there. And I just getting to the stage where I believe that kind of loyalty to the endurance racing cause might be rewarded.
Okay.
I'll say no more than that.
Yeah.
I think...
But we all know when the ELMS has been held at Silverstone in the past, that it's often been a double header with another championship.
It has, and I don't think that's in prospect at any point, but we are...
But the other championship, certainly there are thoughts about coming back to the UK in the next period of years. I mean, who knows how long it might be, but I think to bring the European Le Mans Series to the UK is a great first step. It's also my birthday weekend, Graham, so that's another reason to have a festival, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. I was wondering what you were going to say then. The 12th, the 13th and the 14th of September is the date for your diary if you're in the UK. End of the summer, start of the autumn. But September's actually quite a good month in the UK now in terms of warmth. You know, it's not ridiculously hot, but there's often long sunny days. Middle of September. And a good way to back up Spa, which we will visit on the 24th of August. Remember, Portimão is a Saturday race again this year, as it was last year and the year before?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I think so, yes.
Well, anyway, last year was
last
a
year, so, no,
Saturday
last
race.
year. Last
For
year
the first
only,
time,
yeah.
yes.
But do come along. It is a packed weekend of action, with the exception of this race meeting, because this effectively counters the fact that we had Leisure European Series on Test Day at Le Mans and the Michelin Le Mans Cup with their Road to Le Mans races. So this is the race where those two races do not feature. So Silverstone, by the way, will welcome both those series for the first time ever. We've never had either of the two regular support series at Silverstone before, so it will be a first opportunity for a UK-based crowd to watch the Michelin Le Mans Cup, the traditional Saturday race, and the double-header of what have been increasingly impressive racing from the Leisure European Series and 20-plus car grid this year, as well as, obviously, a 4-hour enduro with the magnificence that is the European Le Mans Series. I think we're going to get a big crowd, and I think that big crowd is going to be royally entertained. So do come.
It's really nice to have the European Le Mans Series back as the main show. Next update, by the way, is going to be in 10 minutes, so that will be at 4 o'clock this afternoon, when hopefully the skies will be a little brighter. That gap behind the weather band that we've been experiencing is, I wouldn't say getting bigger, but I'd still say that's probably sufficient to get 2 15-minute sessions in there, as long as the turnaround can be pretty fast as well when we get to the end of LMP2 Pro-Am and back into the LMP2 cars. They're certainly very, very fast, are the pros on the racetrack. They'll be eager to get their session done and dusted so that they can head for an evening meal and some gelato, naturally.
This is looking better and better, if you ask me. Hearing, by the way, from trackside from David Lord, friend and colleague, that the Marshal's post he's close to, and I'm sure seeking shelter from, have got their little sound system on. And what is the chosen track? It is, of course, AC/DC's Thunderstruck.
That's topical, and we love it. So they've maybe obviously chosen a playlist to fit their day.
Well, pretty clearly our fans here have found shelter. None of the drowned rat look that you'll often get during this kind of weather. So Imola's infrastructure is looking after our crowd well here. It is passing through. Just looking for the trailing edge of this front, and we're getting to the stage we're about to clear it.
Well, I think the signs of the rain stopping is what we were first looking for, and then how quickly this wet weather or the standing water can drain as quickly as possible. The problem is with the gradient change around here, it's going to linger right at this point where the safety car is at Acqua Minerale, although actually the curbs there don't look too bad. Fair bit of spray being kicked up, but LMP2 cars can deal with some spray. We've started races in the past with damp conditions, and often a good way of clearing the racetrack of wet weather and damp conditions is just to throw cars at it. So
the next session
it'll be a brave decision to make, though.
It is. Next session we'll see will be LMP2 Pro-Am once we've got a start time for that, and it will be 8 Orica 07 Gibsons. It will be the bronze drivers aboard those cars. That'll be Georgios Kolovos in the DKR engineering car, the number 3 car, the oldest car on this grid, that 2017 Orica chassis, but I think it's a bit like the Triggers Broom. Pretty much everything around that car has been changed since 2017. Krytel Toudis, 2 cars into this, and it's 2 Greek drivers. It will remain at 2. But Kryten, already a class-winning driver in the exceptionally well-prepared Algarve Pro Racing car number 20. 21, we had Steph Wentworth talking to Daniel Schneider a little earlier, and it will be the Brazilian that takes the 21 United Autosports car on track. Nielsen Racing, and they're flying high in the P2 Pro-Am Championship right now. Tony Wells from the UK will be aboard the 27 car when we get to racing. Rodrigo Sales from the United States in TDS Racing's 29 car, the car that set pole position at Le Mans in the hands of Matthias Besch. And then Giorgio Roda, what a spectacular run of form he's had in pole position form over the last couple of seasons in the 77 Proton competition car. His home race, of course, the Italian driver. Francois Perodo, we've seen Francois in the AF Corsa garage for his 83 car. He'll be eager to get that back out there and running. And then finally, PJ Hyatt, Le Mans winner this year, AO by TF, the number 99 car, the Purple Dragon car from AO Racing from the United States and TF Sport from the UK, their combined efforts. They're the cars, they're the drivers we're going to see in the next session. It'll be another 15-minute session once race control are happy. That's not an LMP2 car, by the way. This looks to me like this has been dispatched to blow some of that standing water off. So the blower on the rear of the... See if we can spot what kind of tractor that is.
I thought you were going to say, see whether we can spot whether it's Eduardo Freitas driving it, but
No.
it's definitely not.
No, it's not quick enough.
It's full of red wine. Oh, no, it's not. It's that's a turbo, what do they call it? Turbomatic.
Turbomatic.
Okay. It's one heck of a hairdryer.
Yes, indeed.
Looking back on the qualifying times, which are bronze only for LMP2 Pro-Am, so from Barcelona, Giorgio Roda was 0.2 of a second faster than PJ Hyatt. I think he's going to be his sort of nemesis through the course of the year. But Rodrigo Sales, third fastest. Sales had to contend with being third fastest in Le Castellet as well. But PJ got the pole the last time we were qualifying, and there was a 1/10.5 in it between PJ Hyatt and Giorgio Roda. And I think that's going to chop and change all the way through the year. Roda's all of a sudden got some qualifying competition to contend with in ELMS.
When we had Rahel Fry in for the LMGT3, we talked a little bit about the couple of seasons of great competition we got between Sarah Bovey and Ben Keating in GTE AM rather, in the FIA World Endurance Championship. And we've traditionally seen this in the Pro-Am formulae, that you'll get someone who sets a level, and that's been Giorgio Roda, and boy oh boy, do the other AMs in that class like measure themselves against that mark. And that's what PJ Hyatt has done, and has done very effectively indeed. And he now looks, we can see what the game plan is here, the tractor with the rather large hairdryer on the back of it is indeed clearing standing water from a couple of places that have been reported back by the course car here. But that's what's going on at the moment in the qualifying side of things. It is someone set a level, someone set the standard, and others are now looking to challenge it. And we've seen great stuff from Georgios Kolovos of late, great stuff from Rodrigo Sales as well, and for that matter, Tony Wells getting stuck into it as well in terms of their single lap pace. It's just what it does, it draws the standard upwards. And since they made the decision, starting from memory with the FIA World Endurance Championship in GTAM, to feature the bronze drivers as a big part of that qualifying effort, all that's happened is the standard of driving and the speed from the bronze drivers has improved.
Yeah. And again, with endurance racing, qualifying is one thing. Racing for 4 hours, as we'll do tomorrow, is completely a separate entity, because you look at the two pole sitters, PJ Hyatt in the number 99 Spike the Dragon, AO by TF car, and Giorgio Roda in the 77. Neither of those teams have actually won a race yet. So the 77 crew that were pole in Barcelona ended that race in fourth, 99, a narrow defeat of 4 seconds to Tony Wells, Sergei Sete Camara, and James Allen, who were winners last time out. And, you know, Tony Wells, I think, was the most surprise of anybody to see that Nielsen Racing could win the LMP2 Pro-Am part of that race. But that immediately puts them now in the field of being able to put together a decent string of results through 2025.
Yeah. By the way, the least surprising message of my afternoon has just come in from Oliver Gavin, who is just, I put it as not threatening, but inquiring text about whether or not what I might have said about his racing record in the past. But
oh, he wasn't listening then?
No. I think he's there's been what I might describe as messaging traffic. I suspect from the BRDC Massive.
Yeah.
As they're not known. So Ollie, I know now, will be listening very carefully indeed. So I've got to be very careful that I don't cross the line of acceptability of talking about Ollie's peerless racing record.
That wasn't the word you used a few minutes ago when he wasn't listening, but okay, we'll go with peerless from this point on. Another lap for the safety car on a constantly drying track. I'm liking the lack of water now on the main straight.
Yeah, what we're getting is less spray, certainly less standing water. There are still a couple of points I think that will need the attention of the, what do we call it, the tractor with a great big blower on the back. That seems a kind of clumsy description, but...
Is it better now in that area?
Yes, it's completely different circuit now. T5, T6 is okay for me.
That's Pedro.
Tractor at the exit of T7. Tractor at the exit of T7. Be careful.
So the exit of T7 is this corner at Tosa.
Okay.
So Pedro Cusero, the very talented pianist we were finding out
Pianist
yesterday.
singer.
Pianist singer. 7 albums, did he say?
Apparently so. And I can tell you right, because he's not listening to us, but I intend to be stitching him up royally at some point in the WC meeting on that front.
The tractor's not lost it, by the way. It's not spun around. This is deliberate manoeuvring to try and, again, blow away. And it's doing a good job of that standing water on the exit of Tosa corner. Such a crucial corner.
Worked is okay for you.
That's not the worst one. It's okay for me. Where I am exactly at this point here.
It's great stuff to hear. Thanks for the TV truck for letting us hear what's going on.
Because here the car, this tendency is to jump. We lose a lot of grip, and it's still a little bit of water on tarmac. That's the problem for me here.
So if we clear from where you cross the tractor up to that point, for you the track would be okay to send out the LMP2s?
No, not yet. In my opinion, we still have the problem on T17. Going down the hill, there's still a problem.
Okay, noted. We still have an issue at T17 since the last time you passed there.
And it is where I was talking. So they were initially, Pedro was saying here, turn 8 and then up to 9, which is the climb to Piritella, which is where a lot of the water was. It's not standing there. It's actually pouring down the hill like a river. And that's precisely what's happening at turn 17 as well. So that's the run, the little right-hand kink before you get into the Rivazzas properly.
Yes, safety car. Okay, this exit of T15 is okay. It's not a major problem. There's water here.
So the exit of the chicane.
Exiting T15 but not causing a problem. That's the problem starting here. You see a river where I'm stopped at the moment.
So they can see that on CCTV. We can't see it from the broadcast camera angles we've got here. This is excellent stuff, by the way, because
I can imagine where you are. I can't see you because you're between two cameras, but yeah, you are after 15 coming to 16, I guess.
So they can't see it either. Okay, fine.
Exactly, because the car there is turning, so it's the tendency to have aquaplaning is very huge. And for me, the biggest problem is at the moment, it's here, where I am at the moment, as you can see, here. Before the bridge, you see? Yeah, okay. Coming from 15, 16, basically 16 to 17, there is a big tendency of aquaplaning there. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the water running down the hill.
Where you start going down the hill.
Yeah.
That's for me
That's what I just said,
because
Pedro.
you are under cornering, and you still have a little bit of water here. That's the only thing. Apart of that, for me, everything is okay. Okay, of course, not perfect, but it's okay.
So Variante Alta down the hill, kink at 17 into Rivazzas. So it's the uphill bit and the downhill bit, and
Absolutely
that's where
right.
both of the rivers are, Graham.
But I'm really enjoying the fact that what we're hearing is the process. What we're hearing is this is not just Pedro just going round and round and round enjoying himself. I'm sure he is. But he is actually feeding back to where he's got points of concern. And we're hearing, I think, the second voice in race control, by the way, I'm pretty certain that's Gwen Boursier, who is regularly our race director for the Michelin Le Mans Cup and will be again part of the team here at Imola. So he's progressively telling them what the prevailing weather is doing, what the intervention from both marshals and the on-track kit is doing, and how and where it is we still need attention so that we can get back to green flag running. By the way, just a quick word about Pedro. You said about his sparkling musical career. and we'll continue to talk about that behind his back a little later. Who is he? Well, this is the guy that is the safety car driver, not just for the European Le Mans Series, but also for the FIA World Endurance Championship. Before we get into more of that, let's go back down to Steph. And Steph has Theo Bocher from Algarve Pro Racing for a quick chat about what's going on.
I am joined by Theo Bocher of the number 25 Algarve Pro Racing. He's just had his umbrella taken away. The guys around here, we're all just killing time at the minute, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah, it's a bit of a shame to wait, but it's logical. You know, it's a bit too dangerous at the moment. So race direction is doing their best to for us to have a qualifying session for the Pro-Ams and the Pros. So yeah, we just have to wait a little bit, be patient, but I think we will have a quali.
Yeah, it's looking better. You'll be jumping in for the LMP2 session, so just after the Pro-Am. Hopefully the track will be in a much better condition after a 15-minute session for them before you.
Yeah, for sure. As long as there's race cars driving on the track, yeah, it will dry out the racing line, and it's going to be much safer. That is the most important, and drivable. So yeah, I think I'm ready for everything. Let's see. It's most probably going to be a wet qualifying, but we never know. It's summer, it's still very warm, so if the rain stops and there are a lot of cars driving, it can dry out quickly. So I'm ready for anything.
Fabulous. And of course, the last time we spoke to you was before the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which was your first one. And we'd just love to hear about how it was for you, that experience as a French driver driving the iconic circuit. Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. Best event in the world. So much people, and of course in France, as a French driver, I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, we had a bit of bad luck and contact at the beginning of the race for my teammate, but it's part of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's so tough, but we finished the race. That's the first victory in Le Mans, and for sure I will be back in the future.
Yes, indeed. Well, I hope to see you on track soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's going to be a big part of this sport moving forward without a shadow of a doubt, and it's good to see the joy in his face as well there. Did say we'd just explain a little bit more about Pedro's background. He is the safety car driver and has been now for several seasons across the European Le Mans Series and the FIA World Endurance Championship. His motorsport career, Johnny Palmer, got, as we were talking to last night, as far as Formula 3000, where I think his teammate for a season was Tom Christensen. I think
he did mention Tom's name, yes.
He did indeed.
Yeah.
There he is again. Included, by the way, some podium finishes for Formula 3000. I'm delighted to have been in touch. I mean, delighted for so many reasons to have been informed by James Newbold, renowned motorsport writer and author of a newly published book, by the way, on Formula 3000, that one of his best results came at Silverstone in 1997, where Pedro finished second. I'm looking at the results of that race right now, and, oh, hang on a minute. Didn't qualify or? Okay, yeah, Ollie Gavin didn't qualify for that.
Yeah, wow. That wasn't a standout either, was it? I don't believe. I think that probably happened several times actually.
Yeah, I'm being told in more detail on the Ollie Gavin's non-qualification at Silverstone in 1997 while we got time.
Bearing in mind,
hang on a minute. It does say it wasn't his fault.
Right.
It was a last-minute signing for a tiny team. But with heady irony, spun off on a drying track. Probably not his fault.
Was that at Silverstone?
Yeah.
Because
his home circuit.
Yeah, not that far away at all. Anyway, the following race in 1997 was at Pau, the Pau Grand Prix, for Formula 3000 cars around the streets of Pau. That's
the definition of insanity.
What? 1997 Formula 3000 winner, Ricardo Zonta.
Oh, later a sports car racer.
Juan Pablo Montoya was second in that championship.
Later a sports car racer.
Absolutely. Who else? Tom Christensen was indeed.
Later a sports car racer.
Yeah, you're spotting the pattern here.
Should say, by the way,
Pedro was it? Yeah, Pedro. Rui Aguas was in the
later a sports car racer.
Yeah.
Should say, by the way, you're saying about Pau and Formula 3000. Pau was such a kind of tight and twisty circuit that when British GT went there for a one-off, they only took the cup cars because it was too dangerous for the bigger cars.
I can believe
Formula
it.
3000.
What? Again, I'll say that word. Yes.
Okay, guys. So, we continue on. I can tell you that we're getting an ever deeper shade of blue in the skies above Imola right now. Just checking the windage. The German flag on top of the Proton garage is now limp.
In a good way.
Yes.
So the wind has dropped, and that means that the weather bands are slowly working their way around and away from this scene. The difficulty, as I say, is when the thunderstorms are going to properly stop, because it could be as late as 6 o'clock tonight. I haven't got a timetable for the rest of the day.
There's no doubt they're looking for a weather window here.
Yeah. But I'm also concerned about, quite a significant support category that is on the bill, and whether they can crowbar those races into the rest of the day, because all track action must cease by 8 o'clock tonight. But I'm hoping that our qualifying will be long done and dusted by that point, or a decision has been made to somehow glean a grid from other means. What I don't know is, could you have a grid for some of the categories from a free practice session, and then for the other categories we're fine for the ones we've already done, as in LMP3 and NMGT3? I suppose that is possible. But everyone involved at this point will still be concentrating on the chance to fit these two 15-minute sessions in to the gap in the weather. But the fact that the wind has dropped is not going to help in that process.
No, 10 past 4 locally now in the afternoon.
And I'm presuming another update at 20 past 4. That's just generally been the... Well, next information at 4, 4:10. And we'll get more information within the next 60 seconds.
4:20, we're just hearing.
Okay. Put yourself in the boots of mechanics up and down the order, or of the pit lane, of engineers as well, who are having to deal with this little 10-minute segment. This will be having an impact in plans for... I mean, you could say about the non-serious elements of evening plans, but also you'll be prepping a car for tomorrow's race, heading into this evening. Yes, there's a fair bit of time in the morning, but there's the signing session, assuming it's dry, for that to take place, and there are lots of other things that will eat into what you want to be doing on a Sunday morning. So this will be taking away potential race prep. This session for LMP2 Pro-Am was due to start at 20 past 3. So we're in another 9 minutes, a full hour later than we expected.
And completely justified. Again, I'll thank our girls in the truck for allowing us to hear the conversation between Pedro in the safety car and Eduardo, and I think when Boursier in race control, and they're workshopping right now, pretty much live, what they're being told about the prevailing track conditions, dealing with as best they can with the kit they've got. Ice cream, the order of the day down at AO by TF. There we go.
Now ice cream, guys.
Gelato. It's gelato. These people, you work with them.
Work with them and can't work without them.
No, can't do a thing with them. I'm sure Tom Ferrier finds the same.
Breaking news that Pedro Crucero's teammate was not Tom Christensen in 1997.
Didn't say 97. Didn't say it was 97.
Any of the years that he took part. Okay.
Do you think he was fibbing?
I think you misheard, in truth, but let's just have a look.
You're calling Pedro a liar?
No, well, no, I'm not. He didn't lie about those albums.
Okay. It's raining a lot more here in T1 to T2, 2 and 3, but the grip it's okay. No, not perfect, it's okay. Visibility is very good, so not a problem.
So raining again, then effectively turn 2, turn 3. I'm just looking out the window here. There's not sign of heavy rain, and we're, again, as I say, we're above the pits complex, looking at the 3 new pits at Pit Inn, which is where Proton Competition is stationed this weekend.
T5 and T6. Safety car to race control.
Yes, T5 and T6.
Okay, T5, T6 and T7, good grip. Still raining, but good grip.
Oh, there was a big slip though there as he headed over the river. I just heard the revs rise dramatically from the flat 6 of the safety car Porsche. So that was pretty much at the kink at turn 8.
T9.
T9 is
I
Piritella.
would say a lot of attention up the hill after T8. That's, for me, the worst point at the moment. Even with no river, there's no grip because the car like jumps and loses completely grip.
But Villeneuve chicane, so turns 5 and 6, the high-speed approach to Villeneuve.
Tractor exiting T14, 15. Tractor between T14 and T15 in front of you.
And
Copy, T14, T15. I can visually see it, thank you.
14, 15, so the tractor will be there. Yes, it is, and that's precisely why Pedro's getting the warning from Eduardo Freitas to say, take it easy on the exit and make sure that the tractor driver has seen the Porsche as well, because the last thing we want is the tractor to do a 180 to try and continue to get rid of that water and not see the circuit vehicle. So that is now being covered by yellow flags.
T14, T15, okay.
So Aqua Minerale, okay, he said.
16, 17, that was one of your problems earlier.
Okay, I would see after the blower there, the T16 is still almost the same. T17 is not running as much, but it's still a lot of rivers, small rivers there, so.
It's a window, isn't it, into one of the tasks that's expected of our professional drivers that assist race control. The amount of rain, it's whether or not that rain is resulting in standing water and more to the point what grip or lack of grip there is at any given point here. And here it is, tone, highly professional approach to this. You know, he's not looking for a dry line, he's looking for when we can go racing again.
Yes.
You know, it's this is a very realistic aspect to it. Nobody here is expecting perfection.
And remember, this safety car is on road tyres, as far as I know. It will be tyres with tread. I know a slick tyre, strictly speaking, has tread as well, but you know what I mean.
And T7, it looks okay. Very, very tricky, but just for your information, I was already 220, not more, otherwise it's for me too risky, but that was okay.
Okay, so he's quickening the pace now.
T14, T15, huh, for your information.
We're also hearing from Steph in pit lane that there is some movement as far as the drivers are concerned, so they're heading to their cars. Next update, we said at 20 past 4. I still think it's going to be 4:30 at the earliest for any action concerning... Oh, there was a big squirm there at Aqua Minerale. Now, Aqua Minerale, Pedro had already said it's all right there, but he had to have 2 bites of the cherry turning into that right-hander at the base of the hill.
But he's pushing now. I think this we heard it from him. He was pushing the pace. And what he's doing now is he's pushing the pace and seeing whether or not the grip he thought he had a reduced pace is still there when you up the ante. Remember, this Porsche safety car has got significantly more electronic assistance on tap than an Orica 07.
Yes.
Great, safety car to race control.
Go ahead, safety car.
Is it possible for you to see where I'm stopped at the moment?
You're on live TV, mate, so yes.
Okay, this is the place. This is the first place you really should avoid. Oh yeah, there's a lot of water there, you can see.
That's actually the area I least expected to be as damp as it is, because the top of the hill, the drainage isn't quite as good as I might have imagined on the exit of Variante Alta. The river then under the bridge, which was one of Pedro Cusero's concerns a couple of laps ago, is here.
But it's on a slope and it's going to drain more easily. The problem is, does it collect at the bottom of the slope?
Yes, but the
Go ahead, safety car.
Rivaz is a little bit
And
cambered.
that's the second point on T17. This is the point for me that is crucial to see. Apart from that, it's tricky, but we have to live with that.
17.
Okay, stop, pedal,
Remember,
stop. I need to see them. I need to show them. Stop pedal.
So Pedro locating reverse now. Not seen a safety car reversing on a technically live racetrack. Not really live, but you know what I mean. Before 17, I'm all of a sudden reminded now of what happened here at the World Endurance Championship meeting, which was in free practice 3, I think, on the morning of Saturday, when Alex Lynn had an almighty lose in the Cadillac. And that was in dry conditions, but how fast he was going and then how much it took to slow the car.
But that, if I remember rightly, the team later apologised and said they'd set the ride height incorrectly.
If I remember correctly. I think, yes, yes, there were mitigating circumstances after that incident, but it's not until a car leaves the road at such a fast point as that, and you realise how much energy is involved with a Cadillac hypercar in that case. Again, lots of corrective steering, I suppose, from the Portuguese safety car driver, who did indeed have a teammate named Tom Christensen in 1996, I have found out. Neither driver did all of the campaign in Formula 3000 in 96, but yes, they were both at Edenbridge Racing when the British team that particular year actually trialled 6 drivers across 2 different cars.
Safety car on, yes. Okay, Pedro. Our plan is to let the blower do its job, and we are going to allow LMP2 Pro to go on track to do their qualifying session, okay? If we see that the track is not in conditions, that as a protection for us, eventually we will hold the P2 Pro-Am and the P2, and we will do the grid of those 2 categories by the results of free practice. But looking at the way your car is evolving on track, I think we should be okay.
Yeah, Race Director, thank you for the information. Just one thing, for me, it's increasing a lot. It's much better. Let's just see the T17. That's very tricky, but it's up to them. I think it's very affordable for them to go on track.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it?
Or decreasing?
Increasing the quality, decreasing the amount of rain.
Okay. Be careful, you have the blower ahead of you.
Yeah, I was just wondering about Pedro's use of the word increasing there, whether he meant it was improving or decreasing in quality. But it is a grip level increasing. And then
safety car.
I'm starting to have problems with the fuel. I can go for 3 or 4 more laps. Do you want me to continue or leave this fuel for the future?
One more to see how it is, and this will be our final call on that one. One more to see how it is.
So the Porsche is running a little dry in terms of fuel, and who can blame it, because it's done many, many laps around this pretty much 3-mile or 4.9 kilometre racetrack. It'll burn a bit more fuel, the fact that it's up and down Dale as well. But yeah, the conditions are improved.
Okay, information to pit lane. Safety car is pushing. We still have the blower on track. And as I said before, it will be on a short call. We will not do all those procedures at -5 to the working lane, at -3 to the fast lane. It will be rather quick. You won't have much time in the working lane. So be on standby, please. Have everything ready.
But what I liked from Pedro Cusero was that 17's tough. It's still drivable. And it's down to everyone that's going to be in the session as to how fast they go. You always have the option to take your foot off the gas, don't you? So you do an outlap, assess the conditions, and there is scope then to do a good time, if not a kind of blistering time. And you don't want to push it too hard and leave all your mechanical crew with a lot of work to do tonight.
That's the point, isn't it? The first time they're going to experience those conditions is not going to be on a push lap. It's going to be at the end of their warming up lap, and if they're smart about this, and they're smart, then they will be looking to see what is doable, where they think they can risk.
And the nature of a bronze session is to try and get quicker throughout it anyway, isn't it? So you just start to up the ante with every single lap, but it's going to be far better to put in a banker at the start of this 15 minutes for fear that somebody else loses it, stops the session, and that might be all that she wrote. So surely the priority, a little bit like when Rahel Fry was joining us in our booth. That feels like days ago now. It was only about an hour and a half or so ago. But she said when the weather was closing in, that actually the priority was to try and get as quick a lap in as possible, as early as you can. And I think that will be the idea of this next 15-minute segment as well.
Well, here they come out onto the pit apron. So we are getting ready to go. Thank you so much if you've stayed with us on the stream. And hopefully we can get some track action coming to us. Remember, there are still 2 sessions to go. There's this session for the LMP2 Pro-Ams. This is the 8 cars with the bronze drivers aboard. After that, we've still got another 15 minutes for the LMP2 cars, and that is with full pro driver lineups. I guess is going to be, you're going to see 2 very different approaches being made in those 2 sessions. Goodyear Eagles go on to the cars with the blue wording on the sidewalls of the wet weather Goodyear Eagle tyres.
So our first wet weather qualifying of the season, and now we start to think who's likely to do particularly well in this session. Are we going to be thinking away from Giorgio Roda and PJ Hyatt to those that have more experience perhaps of LMP2 cars in the wet?
26 cars may go to working lane. At 27 we will open pit exit. At 16:26 cars may go to the fast lane. At 16:27 we will open the pit exit. Please be advised, it is difficult.
There you go. That's the warning for everybody that conditions are not ideal, but you do have the ability to qualify within them, so suggests race control. But it's going to be that old Lena Gade quote, perhaps, push but without risk.
I agree. And you know what? One thing I would say here is we have got some remarkably experienced gentleman drivers in this session. There's one of them, Francois Perraudot. They're not going to want to make their lives, or those of the crew, any more difficult than they need to be. I think banker is the order of the day, and that's not the description of the occupation of anybody in the car. It's the way the laps should come. Controlled.
Please inform drivers slippery track flags between T7 and T9. Slippery track between T7 and T9.
So that's the river between Tosa and Piritella at the kink at turn 8. And that's where there's been a squirm and a rev rise from the Porsche that was being driven by Pedro Cusero. He's done all he can as well in terms of assessing precisely where all of the tricky spots are. And they've been altering too.
20 seconds to open pit exit.
Not only is that radio traffic back and forth from race control to Pedro in
Pit
the safety
exit
car.
will open in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is open. LMP2 Pro-Am qualifying session has started.
Not only is that radio traffic back and forth to the safety car driver has been fascinating for us, and I'm sure for you, wherever you're consuming this race from, but that's also, let's hope most of the teams could hear that too, so they can then pass it on to their drivers. The other difficulty now, although there are only 8 cars in this session, is the visibility, and you'll actually want to try and drop back a little bit from other cars where possible, so that that's not hampering where the track goes next. Most drivers will know that from a couple of free practice sessions, but there's only so much muscle memory you can rely upon. We are an hour and 7 minutes later than planned then to get this LMP2 Pro-Am session underway, and Francois Perraudot, I think quite deliberately, has not hit the 83 car, not been released yet, and this is surely to stay away from all that nasty spray.
Well, half a lap isn't going to make a difference here, is it? It's going to mean spray-free in front of him, plenty of room to manoeuvre and keep out of any trouble that might involve a car that might, how to put this, be somewhat short of grip. You don't want any of those dramas. I can tell you, by the way, that the response via social media to, I've never heard those conversations ever between the safety car and race control. I thought that was stunning. And it's fair to say that the fans that have stuck with us have loved hearing that, and it adds another layer of understanding about process. They're not just sitting looking at a miserable grey track. Here comes Francois Perodo, so that is all 8 cars now out on circuit. It adds that level of information, and if we've got the ability to do it and the control to do it, then I'm delighted we've done it. So thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was all pre-planned ahead of schedule. I had a quick word with the guys that look after our sound, because those that joined us for Le Castellet, we were well aware that Eduardo Freitas' messages were going out, but for some reason we could not hear them. So a lot of the time you're having to contend with us talking over them and seemingly ignoring them. That was not deliberate on our part, I can assure you. PJ Hyatt does one exploratory lap and then in again, and he may not be the only one to do that. However, upping the pace is Rodrigo Sales, and also in the number 21 United Autosports car, Daniel Schneider with the dark blue windscreen visor. We'll see the pro car, if you like, in the next session, and Ben Hanley in that car, number 22, has already been quickest in free practice 1 this weekend.
Pushing the envelope the hardest at the moment, though, is Tony Wells. Tony much quicker than anybody else out there at the moment, so a highly experienced prototype driver, principally until very recently in LMP3. Through pit lane comes PJ Hyatt. I think that's just about space. I don't think that was anything other than just giving himself a bit of space. Don't think he stopped at the pit garage at all. I think that was just PJ allowing himself a little bit of breathing room, finding himself in traffic where he didn't need to be.
34 seconds he spent in pit lane, and the pit lane distance here is 549 metres.
Oh, big wiggle there.
Was that Tony?
Wells.
Yeah.
It was.
Out of Toza. And there's going to be quite a lot of that because, well, Toza we know is greasy on the exit, is now whacking the curves, but not overly so is Tony Wells, and that ribbon of dampness is going to cause a problem as well. Remember the point at the bridge that Pedro Cusero was very concerned about on the run into Rivazza, and he's got through there on the blue sidewall Goodyear tyres.
Well, that's middle sector has ruined what otherwise could have been a bit of a cracker. I think Tony Wells sees the opportunity for pole position here.
Yeah.
He's an experienced driver in these conditions. From the UK. We're not known for our Sahara-like summers. So plenty of his racing career in small prototypes to this point will have been spent in somewhat changeable conditions. There's Giorgio Roda. He'll want to retain his reputation as the pole king in European Le Mans Series. PJ Hyatt will be looking to see what he can do in conditions which will not come naturally to PJ, I'm sure. So time's beginning to come through. It is Giorgio Roda quickest at the moment, 1:53, 1:36, way quicker at the moment than Georgios Kolovas, but these are the early punches in this session. 10 minutes to go.
Well, that could have been a great call from AO by TF to PJ Hyatt to say just make yourself some space and just drive through the pit lane. It's the easier way to do it. Remember, Roda, Hyatt, who else did we say there's likely to be up there? Sales, certainly.
Yes.
Sales has been third fastest. No, I'm just all I'm basing it on at the moment is the sessions we've had this year.
Yeah.
Tony Wells could make a name for himself for sure in these wet weather conditions, but it's been all about, to this point, Roda, Hyatt and Sales.
The two others I think are worth a look here, Tony Wells certainly, and Georgios Kolovas, since he came in, oddly enough, to replace Tony Wells, I think, if I'm rightly, at Team Virage, last season before last, has impressed me in terms of his ability to squeeze pace out of a P2 car, and he's well worth a look. Giorgio Roda, though, is not messing about. He's another 2 purple sectors. He's already, as he comes through sector 2 and towards the end of this lap, he is seconds up on his current provisional pole time. And we've got 9 minutes to go, Johnny, in this session.
And this is the psychology of driving an LMP2 car quickly. Every inch of your body, I'm sure, is saying, slow down, it's not safe to go at these speeds. But if you slow down too much, that's where the grip level breaks. That's where the aero suddenly gives up. And you've got to make sure that the car is punching enough of a hole in the air, is then that invisible hand of the downforce is working. Unlike a GT car, some of these drivers have come from a GT background but are getting more and more used to how hard you need to push and rely on the science behind it all. Rhoda knows that inside and out, but Tony Wells keeping everyone else honest. Although PJ Hyatt's just gone across the line to go quicker than Tony Wells, he's still 3.5 seconds slower than Rhoda's time, though.
Yeah, Tony Wells pretty much matched Giorgio Rhoda's previous best time, and that's been bettered by a couple of tenths by PJ Hyatt, now second. But leapfrogging both of them was Giorgio Rhoda. He's now 3.5 seconds up the road, so to speak. A 150.254 against 153.7 and 153.9 from PJ Hyatt and Tony Wells, respectively. Is this a bit of a moment? Yes, it is. That's not Tony Wells. There's Tony Wells. That was Rodrigo Salas in the 29 car.
But doing something that precisely what Tony Wells did earlier on in the session and showing you how easy it is to do it. I mean, it's a relatively easy break of traction to get out of because you just get off the throttle and the car should theoretically slow down enough for you to straighten the steering and then get back on the power once you're off that wet stuff. But there's clearly a hazard on the exit of Tosa. I'm still a bit concerned about the points that Pedro was talking about, Pedro Cusera, our safety car driver, so turn 8. The exit at turn 15, particularly just approaching turn 16, and then that run underneath the bridge just prior to Rivazza.
Tony Wells improves. He's under 3 seconds back now from what was a brilliant time from Giorgio Rhoda in these circumstances. So he's on a 153.0. Francois Perodo now goes up to third, but now shuffled back to fourth by Georgios Kolovos. We've got a good lap underway at the moment by PJ Hyatt. We'll keep an eye for that being completed, but it is Rhoda, Wells, Kolovos, Perodo, PJ Hyatt, Dan Schneider, Rodrigo Salas and Crichton Tudis is your running order at the moment with the 8 cars we still have out there with 6.5 minutes to go.
Wells is still pushing on this lap. Rodrigo Sales doing a 23.1, which is 0.3 of a second quicker than that. 151.8, much more like it now for PJ Hyatt in the 99.
Halves the difference between the pack, if you like, and the man on provisional pole, Giorgio Rhoda, still 150.254. He responds immediately, and it's a big step in sector 1, 7/10 quicker than he's been before. So are we getting to the stage where, if not a dry line, that some of that standing water has been just squeegeed off the Imola track surface? Are we going to get to a stepping point? Is it going to happen in time for the end of this session?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to be said, as I've mentioned a few times before, for just cars going round and round and clearing the track on their own. But it needed to get to a point where you could put 8 LMP2 bronze drivers on the circuit safely. I say safely, you know, within the sort of confines of motor racing, as well as now Aqua Minerale for PJ Hyatt.
Well,
PJ Hyatt, still on it.
PJ Hyatt is up on Rhoda's previous best, but Rhoda is 2 seconds clear of that. Yep. And now in the final sector. So I think what we're going to get is PJ Hyatt at around a low 150 here, but it looks to me like Giorgio Rhoda is going to absolutely atomise that time well into the 48s.
Sales goes third, and that's been his position for all of the season, but he wants to be obviously better than that. At 151, what did Sales do? 151.955. So the top 3 now separated by 1.7 seconds as Rhoda goes across the line, and he has done a 147.5.
That's a
That's
stellar
4
time.
seconds clear of everybody else. But don't discount necessarily PJ Hyatt. He's got the gap down to 3 seconds again.
Hyatt pretty much matched his previous best. He was a couple of tenths off what would have been provisional pole, but as I said, what you've just seen from Giorgio Rhoda, that's a fantastic time. That's 3 seconds faster than he was in his previous best time.
And I think tells us how grippy the track is now. So we don't necessarily stop there. Certainly not in the case of PJ Hyatt and Rodrigo Sales. They're thinking, well, they're in this. Rhoda's in exactly the same car as I am. Might be slightly different setup changes here and there. But with the track conditions getting better, and perhaps in the crucial areas, is there still scope for us to improve as well. PJ Hyatt, Rodrigo Sales, maybe Tony Wells too. 3 minutes 40 seconds still to go.
Yeah, Roda, Hyatt, Rodrigo Sales and Tony Wells. Francois Perodo improves. He goes 5th from Georgios Kolovos, Daniel Schneider and Crichton Lentudis. In the case of one or two of these drivers, it's a matter of survival, and that's fine. But in the case of one or two others, they're beginning to think and dream that there might be a big step here. And have they got the courage at this point to take that step?
Tony Wells has gone quicker than Rodrigo Sales, so that puts him back into 3rd position in the 27 Nielsen racing car. It was a 151.5. There was also improvement for Francois Perodo. 153.0 will put the Frenchman into 5th place for the 83 gang, who took victory the first race of the year in ELMS in Barcelona. Georgios Kolovos now going 3rd fastest in the number 3 car. So he's got the gap down to, well, it's 3.8 seconds away from Giorgio Roda, but if you remove Roda, the gaps are phenomenally close. We've said that a few times before this year.
I should say Giorgio Roda has lifted right off. There's going to be no improvement there for him. There's no improvement next time around for PJ Hyatt either. Tony Wells have made that move, but Georgios Kolovos has now leapfrogged the Nielsen racing driver. Proton, AO by TF, DKR and Nielsen your top 4.
But improvements up and down the order. Crichton Lentudis with his best lap of the session. Daniel Schneider. But has something happened now at Aqua Minerale? A concern, I think it's
Tony Wells.
For Tony Wells in the Nielsen racing car. Because that on the GPS, that car is no longer moving. It might just be a rotation, or has he ended up in the gravel trap in the Nielsen car, which is currently in 4th position? It's a red flag, and he's partly in the gravel, partly on the concrete there, but not going to get out on his own is the crucial thing. And with 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes to go, we will not restart the session. I don't think anybody was going to catch Giorgio Roda, to be honest. That's why he parked it. But it was going to be a fascinating fight to see who might start alongside him. Now we know it's going to be PJ Hyatt.
It most certainly is. And by the way, just before that red flag, Giorgio Roda had decided to push again and was up again on his first sector time. We've seen some impressive qualifying performances from Giorgio Roda in the last couple of seasons, both in European and the Asian Le Mans Series, Johnny. That ranked way up there. The gap, 2.9 seconds at the end in highly challenging conditions. Needed confidence, needed bravery. He showed both of those aspects and was just scything down the time through there. He wasn't taking half a second out of the times. He was taking 2 and 3 seconds out of that time at a point where his confidence levels were clearly growing, but couldn't have been spectacularly high. And as everybody around him was just tippy-toeing and finding a little bit of grip, he was always at least one step ahead of them.
He and the Roda family hail from Como, we should not forget, so he will know this place, and I think he probably has raced here from a reasonably young age, perhaps after track back when his first race at Imola was. But that's just maybe a little bit of local knowledge from International GT Open. He's raced Formula Renault in the past as well as Formula R Bart. But it's that sixth sense to just know through your derriere, really, just how much grip is beneath you. And you can be told by your engineer, OK, watch yourself into Rivazza, a little bit sketchy on the exit of Tosa, until he's done it a few times. And he needed to, do an outlap and then a banker, but then it was the steps after that.
It's the confidence in the package, and it's the confidence in your knowledge of what grip is going to be there. And he found it. I mean, I'll go further. I think that's quite probably the most impressive qualifying performance I've ever seen from Giorgio Roda.
In terms of, I mean, we shouldn't entirely base it on the gaps between his competitors. It's more about just an ability to assess the situation and then to work out precisely how he could push in a safe manner, because he wants to keep the car as straight as possible. We've been talking about tenths of seconds through the course of the year. I mean, PJ Hyatt, who got a pole last time out in Le Castellet, did it by 0.144 of a second, I think. So Roda was right on him, virtually, as you can be in a qualifying session. I still maintain he's got some competition now in the front of the American.
I agree.
But that little bit of local knowledge and a bit more... Because PJ's, it's not that long since he came out of GTs and into LMP2s, whereas Roda's maybe got a year or two on him and has raced downforce cars in
it's
the past as well.
Fundamentally different task racing one of these downforce cars in wet and changeable conditions. And for PJ Hyatt, by the way, to put it second on the grid is quite something. You're quite right to say forget the gaps. But the one place I'm going to remember the gaps is that the leaps that were being made by Giorgio Roda were of the order of 2 to 3 seconds a lap. And whilst, yes, conditions are improving, they're not improving that quickly.
Well, they weren't improving that quickly for everybody else, it
no,
seems.
The point is he had the confidence where he could push, and he did so. And I think when we look back at the laps where we set those times, they were all purple.
Yep. Yes, it's a level of judgment, feel, finesse, perceiving how what sort of the grip that the track could offer you if I push a little bit harder into this corner, if I brake a little bit later into that, without risking the car, because the walls are so close at the edge of this circuit. It's not like Silverstone that we're going to go to later in the year, which is a little bit more forgiving, you might argue. So a 1:47.528, that in the grand scheme of things compared to other times we've seen this weekend is nowhere. But it's 3 seconds faster than everybody else in wet weather conditions. He had a 4-second advantage at one point before PJ Hyatt chiseled away at the gap a little more. So Proton Competition with their second pole position of the season. They had a string of them last year as well, you may remember. They need the race results, though, to back them up now, and a prime opportunity to do that tomorrow from midday in the third race of the season. PJ Hyatt, the number 99 car, second fastest in LMP2 Pro-Am, from Georgios Kolovos for DKR and Tony Wells for Nielsen Racing. But we now turn our attention, still with minutes on the clock in the previous session, I will draw your attention to, but they'll be wiped in a minute or two, and we'll have 15 more minutes for, at the moment, wet weather shod on LMP2 cars. Could we get to a point where slicks might be needed? Probably not.
Well, we've got quite a stiff breeze. The German flag meter is now it's bracing now. The German flag above the Proton Competition pits, so that will help with getting rid of the moisture from the racing surface. I think we will get to the stage where parts of this track will see a drying line, if not a full dry line. Might we see someone give it a bit of a whirl in the last moments of this session? Because it could make a difference. It is remarkable. If you've not witnessed a session where the track is rapidly drying and the difference that can be made with that grip, it is quite remarkable. Leaps can be made if you believe, and if it proves to be the case that your belief is well earned, that the grip is actually there. Don't think we're going to see it at the start of this session. Might we see it at the end of 15 minutes? We are being told that
we will allow cars to the fast lane at 47. We will start the session at 48.
2 minutes from
cars
now.
To the fast lane at 47. Session will start at 48.
So wet weather tyres you can see on the number 43 car are Le Mans winning squad into Europole competition. The Racing Bakers, what a record they've had at Le Mans in recent years. 2 wins and 1 second place in the last 3 years. That is a stunning series of results. 28 car from Edic Sports. There's the 9 from Iron Links Proton. And we'll wait to see just who is going to be thrown into action in this session. Full pro driver lineups, remember, it is platinum, gold, silver for LMP2, and they can decide any of their 3 drivers to put into this qualifying session.
And we have already had different drivers selected in the same team cars for qualifying duties. So Nick Yellerly, who was fastest last time out in Le Castellet, wasn't put in the car for qualifying at Barcelona. That instead was Tom Dillman. And that was the first ever pole position, we reckon.
30 seconds, under 30 seconds to start the session. Under 30 seconds to start the session.
First ever overall pole position in ELMS, or overall pole position full stop, I think, for Inter-Europole competition last time out at Le Castellet.
You might be right.
Certainly a first ELMS.
Danny Juncadello, we expect to be named on the championship leading car.
Open in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. LMP2 session has started. LMP2 session has started. Please remind drivers that the conditions out there are
Complex is certainly a good word, Eduardo, this late in the day.
Let's tell you who's aboard the cars as they clear pit lane. Vector Sports number 10 car in the hands of Pietro Fittipaldi. It is Danny Cadella in the 18 EDIC car. The 28 sister car handling the Opportunität. United Autosports field Ben Hanley in their number 22 car. The 30 from Duquesne is Richard de Geris, already a pole position in his hands this season. Luca Giotto in the 34 Inter-Europol car, and Nick Yellowly in the 43, the sister car. Tristan Vautier trusted in the 37 CLX Pure Racing car. CLX's 47 car, Enzo Fittipaldi, so the Fittipaldi boys both out there in this session. Charles Milesi, the Alpine factory driver, is aboard the number 48 VDS Panasonic. We wait for Nielsen Racing for the 25 from Algar Pro Racing and the number 9 from Iron Lynx Proton. All three of those cars still to emerge from pit lane.
So for Juncker Deyer, did we see him at his home race qualifying?
No, it's his first qualification.
Okay.
Mathis Hubert has qualified the car both races this season.
Yeah, just looking out for other changes, because a lot of them that have gone in the cars today were actually qualifying in Le Castellet, whereas we had more changes from Barcelona to Le Castellet. For instance, in the 43 car that that had such a good Le Mans, doesn't lead the championship because hasn't tasted a victory yet in LMP2, but it is Nick Yellowly back on board the 43 car. He's dovetailing this campaign with ELMS, with a lot of racing in the United States as well.
I'm not sure we've seen Théo Pourchaire in the car at each race this season, but he's now aboard the number 25 Algar Pro car. Nielsen Racing Phil Felipe Albuquerque aboard that car, the number 24, and the Iron Lynx Proton number 9, the last of the runners for me to call who's aboard, is Matteo Capietto. That is your lineup.
And Pourchaire's done both sessions, so good to see that you've been paying attention, Graham.
That would be me being wrong. I'll check that out. That's not the first time.
Yeah,
I can tell you it won't be the last either.
But remember, it was disastrous at Le Castellet because they totally mistimed what they were trying to do in Algar Pro Racing, and Théo Pourchaire was 13th of 13 cars, so we weren't really speaking of him as one of the quick drivers. It was about Nick Yellowly versus Charles Milesi in the 48 car. It is Milesi, as you've just mentioned. The 9 car of Massimo Capietto. Okay, so they put Cairoli in the 9 car in Le Castellet, but at Cairoli's home race, they prefer a Frenchman.
So just one to remember towards the end of this session, the 3 cars that joined late, as that was the 28 car dipping the right rear a bit over the curb. The number 9, the number 24 and the 25, so Iron Lynx Proton, Nielsen Racing and Algar Pro Racing, all late into this session looking for space on track. There are going to be places where we're going to start to see lighter shades of grey here, no doubt at all about it.
Richard de Geris, the real hero at the start of the year. He drives for Duquesne team in this session as well, but he took pole position in the opener, and then Nick Yellowly's effort in the Castellet. So both of those drivers are a going concern. Danny Uncadea with a little bonus for him. He wasn't in this car during Le Mans. That went to Andre Lotre because Uncadea busy with his Corvette exploits instead at the Enduro Classic race. So Matteo Capietto top of the charts, but only on number order. It'll be Uncadea who starts the early reckoning, but these are just, again, banker laps, I would suggest, just in case there's a red flag early on in the session.
Uncadea goes to the top in the early running, and 1:48.376 is the mark to beat as the other times start to stream in behind, and no one bettering that at the moment. So EDIC Sport from United, Duquesne's Richard de Geris goes third. Luca Giotto is the first under 1:48. The number 34 Inter-Europol car, a 1:47.941 tops the times.
And a rather untidy exit out of Tosa for Nick Yellowly, but he mopped it up well, no pun intended there. We had some sideways moments for the LMP2 Pro-Ams, but Yellowly kept the boot in and straightened things up. However, he is going to be pinged for track limits.
Short-cutted, it says here, at turn 15. So I think he's been across the infield and back on. Uncadea, it is at the moment, who is pushing hardest on this second of the flying laps, and he's lucky. He's got 2 purple sectors as he comes towards the end of his latest lap. 10 minutes to go in the session.
Well, a shortcut at 15 is when you outbrake yourself into Variante Alta, this corner now, and take to the escape route, and quite clearly your lap can no longer count because you've jumped off the circuit and taken the quicker route through. So much purple as Luca Giotto now goes to the top of our timing screens in the other Inter-Europol competition car, number 34 with the green nose. And Matteo Capietto on course for a good time as well. He's certainly 0.3 of a second up on potentially the quickest time, and he will go to the top of the charts, 3.5 tenths clear.
He does indeed. Waiting for Gudea to come across. He does. He takes the lead in this session, and by 1.2 seconds. Remember, though, in the battle between Gudea and those 3 cars that started a little later, they're 1 lap less on the tyres they've got, and with the heat they've got into those tyres. Gudea from Malaysia now, he goes second quickest, 0.3 back. Enzo Fittipaldi ahead of Pietro Fittipaldi. Luca Giotto splits the Fittipaldi boys. He goes 4th into Europol.
We did briefly have an EDEX Sport 1-2, but Job van Aerten has been put in the shade by 4 other cars. So Milesi second fastest, the Fittipaldi family very much present 3rd and 5th. So Enzo in the CLX 47 quicker than Pietro Fittipaldi for Vector Sport in car number 10, and Luca Giotto, who was quickest not too long ago, now finds himself in 4th. But still some scope to improve. Gudea linking the times together, 2 purple sectors on this lap alone.
Yeah, 7 tenths up on his previous best, and that at the moment is the quickest car out there. Matteo Capietto, though, is pushing hard to close that gap. Change there, and that I think was Felipe Albuquerque making an improvement. Green and purple everywhere. Out of nowhere, seemingly, Théo Pourchaire goes up into the provisional pole position. 1:46.1 for the Algarve Pro number 25 driver.
Well, this is going to be some lap from Danny Gudea if he can complete it successfully.
Capietto to the top. He's 3.5 tenths up. It's a 1:45.8. And Gudea betters even that, a 1:45.4. The times are tumbling, the grip is coming here.
Well, he was 0.7 of a second up on Pourchaire's time, was Gudea, so I knew Capietto was going to be good, but another 0.3 faster. Charles Milesi plugs the gap now, gets within 0.2 of a second of Gudea's time, so the VDS Panis Racing 47 car with that ultimately highly disappointing run at Le Mans, but they were leading in the final hour before that difficulty hit with the car. Théo Pourchaire, it's been impressive. How's he 7th? But he is right now through Aqua Minerale.
But not for much longer, I don't think. This is a stellar lap from him. 2 purple sectors for Théo Pourchaire. We have the 2 Fittipaldi boys together again. Nick Yellowly split them. He's now 5th. Enzo Fittipaldi 4th. Pietro is in 6th. But there are still purple sectors and green sectors littering this timing screen.
Gudea on course to be 0.2 of a second faster than his effort so far. Charles Milesi, 0.005 of a second, potentially faster than the Gudea time now. So that's going to be nip and tuck, but we may be raising the bar again in just a tick. As now across the line, Felipe Albuquerque in the 24 car goes 3rd fastest for Nielsen Racing. Pourchaire to the top. Pourchaire with the number 25 car will go clear by a full second.
Yeah, 1:44.476. Hugely impressive time by Théo Pourchaire. 6 minutes to go in the session, and still pretty much everything out there is an improved sector time for each of these cars. This is still not done. There is Danny Gudea goes through, cuts that gap to 0.3 of a second. Capietto 5.5 tenths back. Charles Milesi is shuffled a further place back by Job van Aerten. Those top 4 cars still headed by Théo Pourchaire, split by a second. Pietro Fittipaldi makes it 5. He goes 4th fastest. Matteo Capietto with a purple sector. Enzo Fittipaldi with a purple sector. 5.5 minutes to go, and this is going skyrocketing forward in terms of the pace coming from this circuit.
Worth remembering, though, we're absolutely nowhere near the pace that we saw in free practice 1, which was 1:31.8. We then got down to a 1:31.4 in FP2. So that's why these steps are seemingly endless in terms of improvement. What are the VDS Spanish
No.
racing crew doing? Now they're going to go with
It's
a
new
new set of wet weather tyres. They're unrestricted, remember. Even if wet tyres are necessary in the race tomorrow, you can just keep using wet weather tyres up until the point of Goodyear's supply, of course, how many they brought to the track. Thankfully, they were forward-thinking.
Danny Juncadella, by the way, has just... I think he might have had a bit of a moment in Sector 2. Albuquerque goes second, 0.163 of a second back with a purple third sector. Two other cars around him, though, looking set to improve, and one of them is Théo Pourchaire. He edges the gap back to half a second with a 1:44.129. That tops the session, 4.5 minutes to go.
He was 2 seconds slower, Daniel Juncadella, in that middle sector. Now, that was either the 18 car deliberately just backing off to give him some more real estate, or as you say, he's looped it somewhere in that middle sector, the middle sector running from the braking point at the Villeneuve chicane down into the compression at Acqua Minerale. Luca Ghiotto, 5th fastest. Matteo Capietto improved on that lap, so he'll go back to 3rd position. Pourchaire we've talked about. Tristan Vautier now for CLX and the 37 car, 4th fastest with a 1:44.6.
To 3rd, Enzo Fittipaldi for the CLX 47 goes 3rd quickest, well up on the provisional pole pace at the moment. Running 4th, Matteo Capietto, but half a second up after the first sector, and there are two other cars out there currently better than provisional pole pace. One is Danny Juncadella, one is Job van Uter, who is 11th at the moment.
United Autosports need to find something here. They are propping up the field, and Ben Hanley's just pitted. Now, is this a radical throw of the dice to say, let's put some slicks on it and see what you can do, Ben? Bearing in mind he top free practice 1, but 13th of 13 cars as we speak.
Trouble, I think, for Tristan Vautier down at turn 7. I think that car may be off the road, and we've got a red flag.
So that stops the session, and that potentially stops anything else happening within it, because a few moments ago into the Villeneuve chicane, turning through the left-hander, through the right-hander, what happened on the exit of the corner? The session stopped, 3 minutes to go, running wide at Tosa, and then into the barrier. But the bigger issue is that the car's in the gravel trap and just cannot get it out of there. 3 minutes and 2 seconds is enough to do an outlap and a bit more.
It is most certainly enough to get there if you can keep the heat in the tyres, but it's not too long a stop. I will say, by the way, that incident, that red flag, has probably cost Matteo Capietto some time at the top of the timing and scoring sheets, because he was well over half a second up with two purple sectors on the lap he was on when the red flag came out. He will be gutted by that.
So, a decision to be made here by people far more important than me and him, because at 5 o'clock we should no longer still be qualifying these cars. There's a lot to fit in between now and 8 o'clock this evening, but 3 minutes is not a huge amount of time. It does allow you an out lap and and one flying lap at the end of that. The people that will be hoping that does not happen, Théo Pourchaire and Philippe Albuquerque. But as I say, I reckon United Autosports were thinking we go with slick tyres here to see how quick Ben Hanley might be able to go.
It's a drying line at certain parts of this circuit, and the sun has come out. So how long is this red flag going to be out for? They're going to need to recover the car. There might just be a bit of tidying up with that tyre wall.
Session will resume on a short call.
It could be quite something, this. I think someone may throw slicks at this.
Well, United were going to do it anyway, even before the red flag. I think that was their only option.
So, where are we? 3 minutes to go with the clock stopped for the red flag for recovery of the... Which car was that? So my apologies.
The spinning car.
It was Tristan Vautier, wasn't it?
37, yeah.
So the order as things stand: 25 Algarve Pro Racing, Théo Pourchaire, 1:44.129. Nielsen Racing, Felipe Albuquerque, great performance from him in the 24 car, half a second back.
Information to pit lane. Pit exit is opening on a short call. Pit exit will open on a short call. Car 37 will not be allowed to resume. Car 37 will not be allowed to resume.
But massive credit to Tristan Vautier, because he got out of that gravel trap on his own, and an ability to just regulate the throttle when you're wedged up against the tyre wall there to get that car out of the Tozer gravel trap, which is very deep, and make sure that the session can restart. They're changing the nose in the hope that they might rejoin the session, but they have been told...
We're opening pit exit at 17:03:30. In 35 seconds, we're opening pit exit.
Those cars are going to be at the end of pit lane right about now because they're not going to waste the time they've got.
Under 30 seconds to resume.
Well, Ben Hanley was one of the first in, and surprise, surprise, he's the one at the very front of the queue on slick tyres.
20 seconds to resume.
I didn't see the tyre change, but I just think that they were going to do that even before Tristan Vautier left the road,
10,
in
9,
his number 37
8,
car.
7,
Steph telling us
6,
he thinks that United are on wets.
4,
Oh,
3,
okay.
2,
I didn't hear it then, so I must have turned it down inadvertently.
Pit exit is green. Pit exit is green.
Away we go, and here's Ben Hanley that is at the front of this queue. Remember, they just want to give themselves a bit of space. Here comes Felipe Albuquerque, Matteo Capietto, Danny Juncadella, and it's going to be Jon von Utert. Then it's the Vector Sport car. That's Pietro Fittipaldi.
Our camera vantage point at pit out isn't providing us the sideways view of all of these cars, so I can't tell you which tyre all of them are on, but if you spot a yellow sidewall, that is the Goodyear slick, which some of these cars might now be on. They're all on wets, says Steph. CLX 47 car, remember 37 not allowed to rejoin, but the CLX 47 car nearly went for slicks and they've decided against it.
Happily, that was not too long an interruption, so we should still have decent heat in these tyres. You can see there, Johnny, that is very much a drying line.
I'm thinking that so many teams will be regretting their decision here, but I'm not a racing driver, so in a sense, what do I know? But if one or two had that choice to make again, they might have selected a different route. Anyway, you've got to push now with whatever you have beneath you. Getting around to begin a flying lap is the priority now. Bear in mind, we're inside the final 90 seconds of a protracted qualifying sequence of the day. I think it's fair to say we began this at 2:30 this afternoon. So now 2.5 hours later, we're still in the process.
One or two cars just holding back a bit here to give themselves space. They've got to be quite careful they don't overdo that. Pretty much everybody now in the third sector. And tellingly, Ben Hanley, as he completed that warm-up lap, set the fastest third sector of the session. So he is herring off now in pursuit of a meaningful time, and he would hope something that might challenge pole position. Hammering around the curbs, looking at that drying line in the centre, track steaming away as the sun starts to play at certain parts, with quite a stiff breeze as well that'll be helping that, and we have multiple cars that are up on provisional pole time at the moment.
Well, even on treaded tyres, you're going to be able to go quicker than you were prior to the red flag because the sun's been out, it's been warming the track, that dry line has been getting ever drier. Just frustrating. There's a slight lock-up there from Ben Hanley in his red-visored United Autosport number 22 car. He heads out of Aqua Minerale, set to be 1.5 seconds up on Théo Pourchaire's time. However, Philippe Albuquerque and Massimo Capietto could go even quicker than that.
Looking good for Capietto here. Could this be pole position for him? Might it fall away for Philippe Albuquerque? It's certainly a much better time for Ben Hanley, but I think he's going to be bested here by at least a couple of the other cars around him.
Pourchaire got through. He was the last car, I think, to do so, but the checkered flag is now being waved. It's just that nobody has received it yet. Ben Hanley will be the first. Of course, he'll stay on the racetrack rather than coming into pit lane, and he's going to go to pole position. But how many other cars will have the opportunity to go even quicker than that? The next one through, Nielsen Racing, number 24, who goes quicker. Philippe Albuquerque clear by 1.1 seconds. Next up, Massimo Capietto, he's quicker still by 0.8 of a second. So it's Capietto, Albuquerque, Hanley.
It's about Pourchaire. Can Pourchaire keep up the pace he's got on this lap? It looked great for Matteo Capietto. What is going to happen with Théo Pourchaire? Danny Juncadella comes through. He's no better than than fourth.
Well, he went third, but Van Houten was even faster than him. Richard de Giers goes second fastest, 0.8 of a second away from Cappietto. Who else did we have? Nick Yellerly now second fastest, 0.6 of a second away from Matteo Cappietto. It is all about
Giotto to the top. Giotto to the top at 1:38.890. Where is Theo Pourchaire? Here he comes. Can he do it? Yes, 1:37.919, a full second, less a little bit of change away. It is the Algarve Pro Racing number 25 car. Watching the final car to come through, it is the 47 CLX car that does no better than 11th. But Theo Pourchaire, what a fantastic final lap from him. Luca Giotto did a fabulous job. Matteo Cappietto did a great job. Nick Nielli, Richard de Giers and Felipe Albuquerque all improved, and improved mightily in that last 2 or 3 minutes, Johnny. But it's this man, Theo Pourchaire, and the 25 car from Algarve Pro Racing that just got it right at the death.
And on wet weather tyres, we were 6 seconds away from the best time that we've had all weekend, telling me that if one team had elected to go slick tyres there, they might have even beaten the 1:37.9 that we eventually saw. Theo Pourchaire clearly one of the last to either decide which tyres to go on to, or, well, yeah, that's the reason why he was the last in the queue. That was the reason why he was the last to head onto the racetrack, apart from Enzo Fittipaldi, who in the end could only be quick enough for 11th spot. But Theo Pourchaire, he has been in every session to this point this year, as we established at the start of today's, but that is by far the standout performance from the 2023 FIA Formula 2 champion. Welcome to the ELMS, Theo. He was so excited ahead of Le Mans. That race didn't go the way of Algarve Pro Racing, but could they have a very special weekend here in Imola?
Sam Cox, middle of your picture, co-owner of Algarve Pro Racing, run by husband and wife Sam and Stu Cox. Daughter Sydney there. Not very comfortable about the camera, being honest, Sid. She's very much a part of the organisation of this team nowadays. Cappietto will be gutted by that. It put in a great time at the end of that session, but ends up a second and a half off. He'll be particularly upset that the timing of that red flag, because he could have been at the top of the timing and scoring under the red flag here. Interior pole 34, by the way, Luca Giotto came from nowhere that time. That he was not on a purple sector in either of the first two, and leapfrogged a lot of them. Looked as if he might have got it. It then became about, could Theo Pourchaire continue the form he'd shown in Sector 1 and 2 on the one shot that each of these teams got at the death, and boy did he do that. 0.971 of a second, and they, Johnny Palmer, are the times at the end of qualifying.
You can see them for yourself. 1:37.919, the time that Theo Pourchaire set. But the sequence, remember, Ben Hanley went top initially, then Albuquerque, then Cappietto, and Cappietto stayed top despite efforts from Danny Juncadella, Joop van Houten, Pietro Fittipaldi, Richard de Giers. Nick Yellerly couldn't outsmart him either. Then Luca Giotto went pole for about 2 seconds before Theo Pourchaire eventually came across the line to bag the spoils. We have to head to Steph Wentworth now to get reaction from the team.
I am joined by Lorenzo Fluxer, driver of the number 25 Algarve Pro Racing. Theo Pourchaire has just put it on pole for you guys. I spoke to him earlier. Are you happy that you didn't have to qualify the car in these conditions?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm happy not to qualify. I'd love to have qualified, but I think, well, there's no one better than Theo to qualify if it's not me, I think. So, no, we had full confidence in him. You know, he's a really strong driver, and I think he's showing how fast he is, and I think it was really good job.
But of course, we know you have incredible pace as well. Will be put to good use over the 4 hours tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will stay good.
Yeah, well, I mean, now I don't know. The car looks quite fast in the wet, so maybe we prefer it to rain a bit. I don't know. We'll see tomorrow. I think as a team, we're really strong. We haven't been able to show it this year, but I think this is now where we start to get some momentum, and let's see if we can keep it going.
There's always, of course, a possibility of rain here in Imola. Are you taking the start tomorrow, potentially?
No, well, I shouldn't. I'm not the silver driver. I know last year I took it most of the times. Now, no. Matthias has been doing amazing starts this year, so I think we're in safe hands with him, and then I'll take it second, probably like every other race.
And a sandwich, right? Well, we're very excited to see you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So they run with the maximum rating of drivers, silver, gold, who is Lorenzo Fluxer. We just heard from Teo Pucher, who's just done the time. And yeah, we're a little window to the strategy there from Algarve Pro Racing. Let's hope Lorenzo hasn't told us too much.
That order there, the classification, tells a story. We're screaming and shouting, were we not, at the start of that restart of the session about the potential of Ben Hanley to take pole position. And indeed, briefly he did. And he ended it about a minute later, 10th. That's how fast things happened in about 60 seconds. Thanks for staying with a delay for us. Johnny Palmer will be back tomorrow for the race.
I hope we get ice cream as overtime payment for that. Yeah, it was a patience game. 2.5 hours of qualifying, as it turned out, as the heavens absolutely opened here at Imola. We might get the same sort of story tomorrow. Let's hope it doesn't affect too much of the race. But we're on air at half past 11 for a midday start. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.